Everyone thinks this guy is a complete piece of trash. The only reason the hero squad even keeps him around is because he can absorb their curses like some unpaid janitor cleaning up everyone else's mess. And during the final battle against the forces of evil, Crash saves Prince Arthur from a deadly curse at the cost of his own health. And what does he get in return? Absolutely nothing, just more contempt and another reminder from the girls on the team about what a worthless loser he is. Meanwhile, they're busy worshipping Arthur like he's the second coming of a hero, even though the dude couldn't care less if every single one of his people dies. Then Arthur does the most pathetic thing imaginable. He drops his sword and says there's no point in fighting anymore because there are too few of them left to defeat the Blue Death Knight. Crash immediately calls him out for being a coward and throwing away all the sacrifices they've made. But Arthur reveals the ugly truth. He says he's already watched the world end countless times because he has a regression skill. With a new technique he has developed, he can send everyone back to the beginning while letting them keep all their memories and experience. This time, they'll save the world for sure. But Arthur has no intention of bringing Crash along. Instead, he says he'll just recruit a fresh version of him in the next timeline. At that moment, everything clicks for Crash. From the very beginning, he has never been a teammate. He's just been their disposable tool. Before Crash can even process it, Arthur and the others simply turn around and walk away, leaving him behind to die. Crash desperately shouts for them to stop, but his body is already falling apart. Still, for the first time in his life, he refuses to accept his fate. Instead of using his skill to absorb Arthur's curse, he steals something far more valuable, his regression ability itself. A massive wave of black energy explodes from Crash's hand and rips the regression skill away from Arthur. Crash doesn't even have time to understand what just happened before the Blue Death Knight arrives and wipes out everyone in an instant. Then Crash suddenly opens his eyes. He's back in the very house where he grows up as a kid. He wakes up startled, unable to believe that he's now in the next world, again a 13-year-old kid. It takes him no time to realize that he is back in the Green Pine Manor where he had spent his childhood. In his past life, during his final moments, he had successfully stolen Arthur's regression skill. However, Crash was still confused about obtaining it, since back then, people believed that the Black Hood was a skill with no restrictions, although it always had one flaw. The Black Hood could not be used directly on its owner because of the padlock. This padlock generally generated on things the owner found precious. It could even be the most random object. As long as the padlock was doing its work, no one could steal a target's possession unless they fulfilled all the conditions required. The more valuable the skill was to the user, the harder it became to steal. Now, what was leaving our hero in confusion was the fact that when he tried to steal Arthur's skill, he saw no padlock there. According to the records, the only possible explanation was that the owner himself did not want the skill. This, however, explained the random exhaustion on Arthur's face in the last world, since he kept repeating the world's destruction countless times while being completely alone. It exhausted him to the point of making it feel no less than a curse. Come to think of it, his thoughts of starting from scratch with those 3 females alongside him this time while leaving our hero aside now made so much sense. However, it also became clear that without the skill, Arthur must have died in the last world they were in because of the Blue Knight's meteor shower. On the other hand, in the present, Crash finds himself believing that he should be thanked for taking away Arthur's cursed skill. Memories of the past began flashing through his mind, where Arthur always looked down on him, ignoring both him and his curse-stealing ability as if it were something random and easy. Thinking about how cruel Arthur had been toward him, he believed that whatever had happened to him was something he deserved. Right now, our hero is a small child with a small yet muscular body because he practiced swordsmanship every single day, since it was the only thing that could help someone survive in the Valheim family. Eventually, our hero also realized that his presence in the Green Pine Manor meant that the proof ceremony must have already ended. This ceremony takes place to prove one's abilities by revealing which god they had contacted and what skills they had been granted, depending on the contractor's worth itself. The Valheim family all possessed excellent powers and combat skills, except for Crash, who was born without any remarkable abilities. That was the very reason he was sent to the Green Pine Manor, just like everyone else who possessed no power. And now, the irony is that now only this very child, who had been thrown out of the house, is aware of the world's end, something even his family could not stop. However, he is now determined to prevent the world's destruction, no matter what it takes. He stands by the window, thinking ahead about his plans, when Ariad enters the room, the very person responsible for taking care of people like Crash and the only butler in Green Pine Manor. However, this old man would also become the first person to betray our hero. Ariad is the one who poisoned him at the age of 14 using poison given to him by Crash's brothers. Our hero's older sister, Charlotte Valheim, commands the battlefield, impressing everyone with her exceptional swordsmanship and earning the title of Sword Saint. Her talent is a rare, once-in-a-century gift, prompting the lord of the house to place immense expectations upon her. She stands proudly, receiving countless compliments, Meanwhile elsewhere, Crash's half-brother, Belakin Valheim, is plotting to purge the entire bloodline. Recognizing that the rest of the family is too powerful to confront, he targets our hero directly. Belakin attempts to convince Ariad to poison Crash, offering to cover all of his daughter's medical expenses in exchange. Though Ariad initially hesitates, having always viewed our hero as his own son, he is ultimately pressured into choosing his biological daughter's survival over the boy's life. In the previous timeline, on the day Ariad was supposed to kill Crash, the old man committed suicide instead, collapsing under the weight of his own guilt. However, in this new world, when our protagonist confronts him about the plot, the old man denies it. He tries to act confused but is ultimately forced to accept the truth. Knowing the tragic outcome of the past, our hero chooses not to press him too hard. He wants to prevent Ariad from taking his own life again. Instead, Crash simply shoulders the blame, stating that his own uselessness is the sole reason the old man was ordered to kill him. These words leave Ariad astonished, as he expected a completely different reaction. Brushing the tension aside, our hero leads him to the library and asks him to demolish a specific wall. As the butler of the Valheim family, this is an easy task for Ariad. The old man steps forward and with a single lightning-fast strike of his powerful sword, shatters the wall. A hidden corridor is revealed. Crash steps inside alongside Ariad, who senses a strange, unfamiliar aura radiating from our boy and wonders how he could have changed overnight. Eventually, they arrive before a heavily locked door. This is the very door our hero could never locate in his past life, as everything had already burned to ashes. As they stand before the door, Ariad offers his assistance, but Crash decides to test on his own strength this time. Activating his Black Hood skill, he unlocks the mechanism in an instant. Witnessing this display, Ariad asks if his young master has already made a contract with a god. Realizing his slip-up, our hero makes an excuse, claiming he partnered with an insignificant god. He shows no fear at the prospect of his father discovering about the contract. Meanwhile, the old man remains astonished by the overnight transformation in our hero. This new version of Crash convinces him that he has awakened great skills, which makes sense given the legendary bloodline he inherits. Consequently, Ariad resolves to keep Crash's actions a secret. Observing this shift, our protagonist notices that his own altered behavior is reshaping Ariad's personality as well. This realization brings to light a dark side of regression. Regardless of how much this version of the old man changes, the memory of his past betrayal will always remain in our hero's mind. Undoubtedly, Arthur must have suffered through this exact psychological torment as well. Standing there, Crash considers binding Ariad to his loyalty by curing his daughter, but he leaves that plan for later, shifting his full attention to the secret library. He steps forward and opens the door. As an overwhelming surge of energy bursts forth, he feels a heavy pressure against his skin. This archive contains the records and techniques of the ancient Valheim ancestors who were also named as failures. Just like our protagonist, this forbidden place was never restricted until Damaris Valheim arrived. Though labeled the greatest failure in family history, Damaris became the strongest warrior after being consumed by world erosion. He is the exact reason Crash sought out this library. Now our hero's hands are on the tome of the strongest failure. Damaris had become the most useless yet powerful figure in the history of the Valheim family. Even the world's most formidable warriors could not defeat him, as he had literally bound world erosion to his own body and mastered the secret art to control it. However, because Crash cannot fully read Damaris' tome in the last world, the exact details of how he achieved this remained a mystery. It is highly likely that even Damaris could not entirely suppress the erosion's power, which ultimately drove him mad. Setting those mysteries aside, Crash's immediate plan is to find a specific curse that can counteract Damaris' extreme blood impression poison, allowing him to safely control its power. He had successfully used this exact method in his past life when he was targeted by the curse of world erosion. To execute his plan without interruption, he instructs Ariad to ensure that no one enters the Green Pine Pavilion. After getting the orders, walking back through the corridors, Ariad resolves to reject the proposal from Crash's half-brother, viewing it as repaying the young master's kindness and forgiving his past betrayal. When news reaches Belakin that Ariad has declined the offer, he gets furious. He directs his fury at Crash's and his mother, believing that everything would have fallen perfectly into place for him and his sister if that bloodline had never joined the family. He immediately orders a servant to visit the Green Pine Pavilion to investigate why the deal fell through. However, he is soon informed that a powerful barrier erected by Ariad is completely blocking access to the pavilion, preventing even the head of the house from entering. This information only fuels Belakin's wrath as he curses our hero's name. Meanwhile, back in Domain, Crash focuses entirely on reaching the expert beginner level. In this world, the manifestation of aura is divided into distinct stages. Crash currently sits at the ordinary stage, whereas his older sister Charlotte has already risen to the rank of aura master, despite being only 2 years his senior. Yet, our boy remembers that when the world was in ruins, even Charlotte's immense power wasn't enough. For a brief moment, he compares his lack of talent to his sister's genius. However, he quickly shakes off the doubt and regains his motivation. No matter what, he is already in a far better position than before. In his past life, curses had completely locked away his ability to wield aura. Now he can finally channel it. Armed with the forbidden secrets of his ancestors, he knows he can continuously push forward and grow stronger. Wiping the sweat from his body, Crash stands up as Ariad arrives to congratulate him on successfully reaching the expert beginner level. The old butler then delivers unexpected news. His fiancée, Bianca Hardenheart, has arrived to see him. In the previous timeline, Bianca was a terrifying figure who allied with the Eaters and killed the 10 strongest warriors alive, earning the title of the White Demon. In this world, however, she is still just a young girl, bound to our hero through a political engagement. In this world, when the family gets rid of a useless failure and, in return, gains ties with the strongest martial family. Although Crash had already been planning to meet her, her sudden arrival leaves him confused. Bianca is the daughter of the northern rulers. As her mother was struck by a curse before her birth, Bianca was born without any human emotion. This condition, and a cursed body that prevents her from ever forming a contract with any god, made her an outcast within the Hardenheart family. She is constantly scorned and taunted as a wretched child who claimed her own mother's life. However, her unique curse is something Crash requires to control the rampage of the extreme blood impression poison. Deciding to play the host properly, he instructs Ariad to have Bianca wait while he goes to change his clothes. Only 5 months ago, Crash had a huge fight with Bianca. He insulted her, claiming she was only with him to gain power. In reality, Bianca's father forced her to stay with him because it was the only way for her family to survive. Back then, Bianca thought of our hero as a useless person whom she would gladly reject. Even though she has no emotions, she can still easily judge the situation. Back in the present, Crash apologizes to Bianca because her tea is too hot to drink. They decide to take a walk in the garden to look at flowers that do not grow in the cold north. When we talk and our boy talks about her long journey, Bianca mentions that it is necessary for them to meet since they are engaged. In response, Crash simply smiles and points out how formally she speaks. Eventually, this conversation makes Bianca notice just how much our hero has changed. She is also surprised to find out that he knows she loves macadamia cookies, even though she never told him. As they stand in the garden, Bianca openly says that Crash seems like a totally different person. However, she instantly apologizes for questioning him because she suddenly senses a terrifying killing intent coming from his body. This reaction makes Crash realize something. He cannot actually remember how he used to treat Bianca in the past. He only remembers her empty, expressionless face from the moment she died at the North Sea Ice Manor. To cover up his strange behavior, he lies that his new contract with a god is the reason he changed. He then tries to talk about the actual thing, but Bianca misunderstands. She asks if he is trying to break off the engagement. Crash quickly clears it up, admitting that marrying a failure like him must be hard, but he confirms she has no plans to end the engagement. To Bianca, seeing a member of the powerful Valheim family with such low self-confidence is unacceptable. She firmly assures him that she will never break the engagement. Hearing these supportive words makes our hero happy for a moment, since he has not heard anything kind in a very long time. Shaking off the emotion, he gets straight to the point and asks Bianca to give her curse to him. This request leaves her completely confused. Her curse is so powerful that even the world's best curse breakers could not control it. She begins to think that because our hero was treated as a failure and disrespected by his family, he has decided to become emotionally empty because he is tired of suffering. She remembers the words of a mage who once told her about the sickness of the heart. The old man explained that when someone reaches their mental breaking point, they can suddenly become much kinder and act like a completely different person. However, this sudden change often means they are driven to take their own life. The mage had warned her to always help anyone showing these symptoms. Deeply affected by this misunderstanding, Bianca decides she must visit Crash more often to save him. When he mentions that she shouldn't feel forced by the engagement, she tells him that she will never abandon someone who is suffering alone. She promises to always stay by his side and help him. This complete turn of the situation prompts our hero to secretly activate his skill to steal the curse. However, the skill fails because of a magical lock. Bianca has lived with the curse for so long that her body now views it as something valuable. To break this lock, our boy must become Bianca's emotional support. This is a very difficult task since Bianca has no emotions and cares about nothing. Still, he knows sending her back to the Hardenheart family is a bad idea. Crash agrees to let her stay nearby. This way, he can stop her from ever becoming the evil white demon and eventually take away her emotionless curse. He decides to play along and thanks Bianca as the conversation ends. While she decides to return after getting her father's permission, our boy expects her to return in about a month, planning to use that time to read and learn as much as possible. But to his absolute surprise, Bianca shows up at the Green Pine Manor the very next day. packed and ready. She calmly declares that she will be living with him from now on. It has now been almost a month since Bianca moved in with Crash. Her family gave her permission to live with him instantly. The fact that she did not care about leaving her family at all makes something clear to our hero. Being emotionless causes a person's family connections to fade away, or perhaps those feelings just become completely unfamiliar. Still, having the chance to become friends with Bianca is a great opportunity. While practicing, he reflects how winter is coming and the year is ending. The opening of the famous Rahilan Academy is just around the corner. The 4 great kingdoms and empires built this academy together to train warriors to fight against world erosion. Anyone between the ages of 15 and 20 can join. In his past life, this academy produced many members of the Azure Sky generation, a group of people who possessed overpowered, cheat-like skills. Because our hero hates them and knows their weakness as well, he plans to steal all their skills once he enters the academy. However, he only has 1 year left to prepare. Since he has already reached the limit of his current skills, he needs to steal Bianca's curse as soon as possible to become stronger and unlock the ultimate blood venom. Even though Bianca has been following him everywhere since the day she arrived, never leaving him alone for a second, he is still not sure if she truly sees him as a friend yet. Walking out of his practice room, he finds her waiting for him once again. He offers to spend some time playing a game together, but before they can start, he receives an invitation to the Star Sanctuary. This is an annual party held for noble miners to build social connections. Attendance is mandatory unless an extreme emergency comes up. In his past life, Crash stayed locked inside the domain all the time, so he does not know much about these social events. However, he decides to attend this time. He wants to use the trip to fulfill his promise to Ariad by helping his sick daughter, which will secure Ariad's ultimate loyalty. Along with that, he's expecting to meet someone special there. Having made his choice, Crash tells Ariad that both he and Bianca will go to the party. Our hero worries about how people might mistreat Bianca at the event, but she chooses to go anyway. She is not just doing it out of duty as his fiancée, but of her own free will. This is the very fact that makes Crash feel at ease. After receiving so much kindness and care from our boy since moving in, she no longer dislikes him at all. That evening, they arrive at the party, which is hosted at a famous tourist spot. Looking around, our hero feels worried. He watches these wealthy nobles, obsessed with parties and status. He finds it hard to believe that they are supposed to become the future of the Azure generation. In this world, nobles receive immense respect and honor simply because they are the only ones capable of fighting world erosion. Back in the party, as Bianca walks beside her fiancé, she hears the crowd whispering and gossiping about them. On the other hand, among the crowd of fake, arrogant nobles, Crash spots a few genuine talents who will actually become the future protectors of the world. People like Tiger Boy, Magpie Elf and Amelia, and Woodbow Annex Glazed are present, those who will later be known as the top 3 heroes of Starlon. However, the main reason they are paying attention to our hero is actually because of Charlotte. He remembers, in the past life, when she attended this exact party, she managed to defeat every single person there in combat, even while wearing a formal noble dress. Interrupting Crash's memories of the past, Bianca notices the rude comments people are making about him and shows concern. Our hero quickly reassures her that he is fine. Then, after a long wait, the exact person Crash has been waiting for finally arrives. Lord Darling Dandelion of the Alchemy Castle. Crash's first meeting with Darling Dandelion was terrible in the past life. Back then, our hero's body was weak and full of curses. Darling used him like a test subject to experiment with skills until he was finally pushed away. Ironically, this very man later became the best alchemist in the world, the king of alchemy. Back in the present, as soon as Darling arrives at the party, everyone starts whispering about his attention-seeking behavior, while others admire him. Our hero, who already expected him to show up, finishes eating with Bianca and goes to meet him. At first, Darling does not recognize him. Once he hears the name Valheim, he finally realizes who Crash is because of his famous older sister. Being self-obsessed, Darling assumes that he approached him simply because of his good looks. But when he brings up a serious topic of erosion, Darling quickly understands the situation. Darling takes them to a private room. He hands a sword to our hero and asks for his age, because even when Crash is young, he can feel a powerful aura radiating from him. After all, he possesses the soul of an adult who has already passed out of the academy. Eventually, he does not want to waste time and asks the self-obsessed kid to get straight to the point. Instead of answering, Darling suddenly attacks our hero to test his skills. They clash with swords one after another. Since our protagonist was not planning on a fight, he only uses his powers to defend himself. His high-level defense leaves Darling shocked, since he always believed the rumors that Crash was completely useless. Brushing that aside, Crash comes to the actual topic. He does not want to share his actual techniques, so he just twists the words. He asks Darling to start researching a way to neutralize curses. This request piques the opponent's curiosity. Our boy calmly reminds him that if he wants to become a world-class alchemist, he needs to find a way to neutralize the curse of the world eaters. After thinking it over, Darling realizes this is the perfect opportunity to prove his theories. He wonders what our hero will ask for in return. On the other hand, Crash plans to ask him to create a curse-reducing medicine since he can use his own skill to steal curses, which will provide Darling with the perfect data for his research. The main reason our boy needs this medicine is because his current powers alone are not enough to stop the future destruction of the world, especially when even the extraordinary skills of past heroes couldn't do anything. After seeing our hero's true strength, Darling tells him he should never feel useless just because people compare him to his older sister. Eventually, when he learns that our hero is also going to the Rahilin Academy, he fully agrees to make the medicine and help in any way he can. After a while, Crash makes one final request before leaving. He asks Darling to create a cure for discoloration disease, a horrible sickness where a person's body slowly turns black and blue until they die. Right now, it is considered incurable, but our boy knows that Darling was the one who successfully found a cure for it in the past life. Although he thinks it is impossible at the moment, after Crash motivates him, he agrees to try. He promises to contact and personally deliver the medicine once it is ready. Just as the conversation ends and our boy turns to leave, Darling makes a bizarre confession. When Crash asks if he behaves this way because he likes Charlotte, Darling casually admits that he is attracted to both genders and hints that he is interested in him too. Disturbed by the comment, our hero rushes straight back to the party. The moment he steps into the hall, he sees a man misbehaving with Bianca. Overcome with rage, our boy sprints forward and kicks the man hard in the face. Our hero is furious at the man for bothering a child, but the misunderstanding is quickly cleared up. The man was simply following orders from the second princess, Claudia Stalin. Because Bianca refused to go with him, the man tried to use force. Since she is cursed, she receives very little respect from other nobles, which explains why he felt he could treat her that way. Crash wonders why the princess is so desperate to see Bianca. He thinks thoroughly and soon realizes that Annex is the one behind the trouble. In the past, Charlotte defeated Annex in the Holy Land of Stars. Since then, he has felt a mix of admiration and deep hatred for Charlotte. Because he cannot defeat her, he has decided to target our boy instead. Eventually, Crash warns the man to watch his behavior. Then, holding Bianca's hand, he walks away to find Annex, the real source of the problem. As they walk, he asks Bianca why she refused the princess's orders. As for our boy, it was easy to understand the situation since he has seen everything in his past life. But for Bianca, it's not possible to guess the situation. When asked, she simply says she stayed because he told her to wait for him. Her honest answer makes him blush, and he gently pets her head. Soon after, our hero gets to interact with Tiger Boy and asks where Annex is hiding. Tiger Boy explains that he was told to wait inside until Annex arrives. However, before Crash could go inside, the guy immediately challenges him to a duel. He refuses at first because fighting is forbidden in the holy place of stars. Even though Tiger Boy keeps pushing, he tries to avoid it. He remembers that this guy is a legendary warrior who lasted even longer than Aborax in a fight against Charlotte. His moves are so unpredictable that even Crash finds them hard to read. Eventually, when realized that the opponent would not back down, they begin a fierce battle, exchanging continuous attacks. Tiger Boy is fast and dodges almost everything, but our hero finally finds an opening and lands a devastating punch. The opponent tries to stand back up after the heavy blow, but his body gives out and he faints on the spot. The strategy behind this result is a secret hidden technique called 1-inch punch. This skill was invented by one of the Valheim ancestors who was labeled a failure as well. Crash managed to learn it before the library was destroyed in his previous life, and it has saved him many times. Seeing that Tiger Boy is completely knocked out, our boy and Bianca head inside. In the room, they finally face Annex. He is shocked that a useless failure managed to defeat Tiger Boy. On the other hand, our boy, however, is fully prepared. He is determined to destroy the lies Annex tells about him, labeling him as a failure. He's ready to steal every one of his opponent's skills. And once he wins against this evil guy, all the rumors will turn the other way around. In his past life, Crash spent his entire academic career with Annex, so he knows him better than anyone. He knows every fact and every white lie. Annex only stayed with him because he was useful. Back then, this guy also made a mistake that led their entire team into a trap, killing everyone. As our boy hung from the edge of a cliff, struggling to survive, Annex chose not to help. He wanted to survive alone to cover up his mistake and make excuses later. Even as Crash argued that the truth will be revealed anyway, Annex planned to blame him for everything so he could escape the situation. It was the day of our hero's older sister's wedding. Annex, who was only friends with Crash to get close to Charlotte, saw no reason to save him now. Betraying their friendship because of the marriage, Annex turned his back and walked away. As our boy lost his grip and fell, Arthur suddenly appeared and saved him. This was their first meeting and the reason they ended up on the same team, although it was nothing but a new dark beginning for him. However, Arthur eventually helped him expel Annex from the Azure Sky generation. After losing everything, Annex decided to marry the princess. However, he hasn't changed at all. He is still the same person. During their current conversation, Annex teases Crash by calling him no different than Charlotte. Enraged, our hero lunges forward to attack, but the enemy easily blocks the first punch and uses vines to stop a follow-up kick. The vines grab Crash's leg and slam him down, but he quickly regains his balance and lands safely. This power belongs to the Kleiser family. They specialize in a secret technique called heaven toppling wood style, which allows them to manipulate plants. Through constant practice and learning the recovery skill, they can push this ability to its absolute limit. Back in the fight, Crash follows his opponent's suggestion and uses the very simple tree branch coming from Annex himself to fight. In response, the enemy attacks with countless vines, but our hero manages to dodge every single one. The skill leaves the guy shocked that a failure like our protagonist could possess such speed. Taking advantage of Annex's distraction, Crash moves in for a close-range attack, using his knowledge of his enemy's skills from the past. However, the plan fails when the evil guy uses the fifth form of his style to create a massive vine monster. Seeing the giant creature, even Amelia, who is witnessing it all, grows worried for our hero's safety. At that moment, Crash recalls a short book from the library. It contained the secret techniques of an ancestor who practiced swordsmanship for 80 years. The book described a technique called unity of self and object, which is nearly impossible to master through martial study alone. However, our boy has been in this position before. Thanks to the hardships of his past life, he had already mastered his ancestor's technique. With newfound confidence, he uses the branch to perform the technique. He slices the monster apart with a single strike, leaving the crowd in a state of awe and horror. Finally, he drops the branch and gives Annex one last warning for his behavior. After the powerful attack, the enemy falls to his knees. At the same time, our hero feels faint and weak. He used all his power in his last attack and has no energy left to steal the skill. He is on the verge of collapsing. Bianca tries to help, but she only makes the situation worse. That is when Darling steps in. He picks up our hero and takes him out of the room. As they leave, the other nobles are amazed that a failure defeated Annex, while Darling is happy because he knows that by the time Crash recovers, he will be famous. The only concern is the look on Annex's face at the end of the battle. It gives off a bad vibe. A week passes before our hero finally recovers from his wounds. He is upset that he stayed bedridden and missed his chance to steal skills. He had two options: the standard method of unlocking the Black Hood, or a technique to lower the requirements of the lock to stealing someone's skill. He wanted to use that one method on Annex, which works best after shattering an opponent's confidence. He's aware that Annex must be heavily criticized for losing and begins to doubt himself. Even though it will take time, our hero still plans to steal the enemy's recovery skill. Along with it, he also decides to train hard for the next year before entering the academy, so he can surpass the geniuses. Once his training is finished, Crash gets informed that his older brother, Belakin, has arrived to meet him. Since even Ariad had been ignoring his messages for a long time, our boy finally agrees to meet Belakin. While he sits on the sofa, Bianca offers him water, but suddenly she is bothered by a strange smell coming from him, which is caused by waste products being expelled through his aura. His nose is also paralyzed from exposure to erosion. When Bianca suggests he take a shower before talking to his brother, he refuses and teases her instead. He wonders how Arthur from his past life would react to it all. He probably would have mocked him for being soft. However, despite everything, Crash respects Arthur as a great person who fought on the front lines until the end. He wonders where Arthur is in this world. Just then, Belakin interrupts his thoughts and is instantly surprised that the kid who used to fear him is now standing confidently. On the other hand, wasting no time, our boy taunts him, noting that the academy accepts students based on skill rather than status. He asks why Belakin has so much free time to visit. This makes Belakin curious and angry. The world's strongest empires fear the Valheim family, yet here is a child questioning a genius descendant like him. However, Belakin suppresses his anger and delivers his orders. Our hero will join a conquest expedition to the Cursed Mountains at Mount Garelac. Normally, no one under 15 is sent on such a dangerous mission, but somehow Crash agrees to go. He knows it might be a trap set by his brother to test his strength, but he is used to living a life of destruction and isn't afraid. Standing nearby, Bianca points out that no child has ever joined such a conquest before, which annoys Belakin. However, our boy handles the situation calmly, protecting his fiancée. Feeling helpless, his brother walks away. Eventually, Crash thanks Bianca, though she doesn't understand why. And finally, he walks away with confidence, ready for the mission. The corrosion world is a phenomenon where another world is slowly destroying their world. This causes many problems, such as corrupted species appearing out of nowhere, environmental destruction, and in the worst cases, the entire area turning into a completely different world. The situation is already so severe that only expert rank players and mid-tier knights can handle it. Crash stands in that area with Belakin, who is an expert high-rank knight, so handling this is easy for him. Once they defeat the master of the corrosion, the purification squad can finally begin their work as well. Finding no excuse, Belakin only claims he brought our hero to this dangerous place just to give him low-tier, expert rank experience. However, Crash knows his brother's true intentions. The only reason he agreed to come is to test a temporary solution for his rampage. Wasting no time, he and the team begin fighting the headless bugs, which are countless. During the fight, our hero warns everyone to watch out for the bug's teeth, as a single bite can completely swell the skin. Impressed by his knowledge, a knight asks if he has ever been to this world before. However, it's very simple that, as a 13-year-old, he never has done that. Meanwhile, seeing it all, Belakin feels jealous. His own first encounter with this zone was far from impressive. He had failed miserably, yet his failure of a younger brother is now giving advice to others. This makes Belakin worry about his reputation. If Crash surpasses him, Belakin will automatically become the new failure of the Valheim family. Eventually, they draw close to the Master's zone. The lack of other powerful corrosion species makes it clear that there is a Star 3 Master who is able to maintain the corrosion alone. Hearing this from Crash frightens the knights, but Belakin quickly restores their motivation. Soon after, away from the group, our hero moves ahead to locate corrosion's energy. Because of mastering the extreme blood-soaking poison, he senses it instantly. His next step is to swallow it all. As he begins the process, he ends up in terrible condition, coughing blood violently. The others worry about him, but he reassures them. He expected this, since the corrosion energy is nothing less than a potent poison. Crash, however, forces himself to endure it. Moving to the first step of the extreme blood-soaking poison manual, he mixes his aura with the corrosion energy. This combination forms a completely unique power. However, our boy cannot handle this overwhelming power while remaining fully conscious, so he decides to use a secret art discovered long ago by a blind ancestor. That ancestor had found a hidden archive, but because he was blind, it was useless to him. He hid the archive again, leaving behind only one manual. It contained the secret art of awakening the sixth sense. By using the small amount he can currently control, Crash can at least understand his immediate surroundings. He soon realizes his rampage is weakening, and that he has successfully awakened the sixth sense. Though it is only a temporary solution, he still needs Bianca's curse. But still, he feels proud of himself for coming this far all by himself. Before he can think any further, he senses a powerful energy behind him. A giant monster comes into sight. It is Sengenki, the master of the corrosion and the monster of 1,000 faces. As soon as they witness the master, everyone prepares for battle. Belakin uses his skill Ignis, impressing the team. It is an overwhelming ability that burns down its target no matter what it is. Standing behind, Crash remembers this skill perfectly. In his past life, it was the exact attack that burned his arm. Back then, Belakin was a complete madman, leaving our hero to wonder what kind of person he will become in this world. The battle begins, and the soldiers suffer from various curses, falling one by one, some getting attacked by his skin-melting skill while others crushing under Giant's 8 powerful arms. Even the high-level soldiers collapse easily. This sight discourages the army, but Belakin remains motivated. He swings his sword with immense power, burning the enemy and encouraging his men to create an opening in the chaos. Using his strength, the others regain their courage and resolve to keep fighting. Belakin wants Crash to witness his amazing skills, but his younger brother is focused on the thousand-faced demon, which suddenly begins to cry blood. Things are about to go terribly wrong. Sensing a dangerous, overwhelming pressure, Belakin steps back and decides they must kill the demon quickly before the situation worsens. Suddenly a powerful effect spreads across the battlefield, forcing him to retreat, but the team stands still, not moving at all. Belakin realizes that everyone, including himself, has been caught by a curse. His one eye is completely melted as heavy rain pours down. He feels his life is ending and runs away to save himself. Lost in fear, he begins to hallucinate. He sees Charlotte mocking him, calling him a coward and a failure of the family, running away to save his skin. Just as the demon prepares to attack, Belakin uses his arm to block. As a result, his arm burns down completely and his mind goes blank. When he snaps back to his senses, he finds Crash dragging him to safety. He is surprised his little brother is alive, but our hero explains that he was hiding and watching from afar. When he saw the situation fall apart, he rushed in to save Belakin from the demon. Crash offers help, assuring if his older brother is fine now, but arrogant as always, Belakin still refuses to accept his help. However, he quickly realizes that despite running far from the demon, they are still trapped in the area. This terrifies him. The space is entirely closed, and escape is impossible without defeating the demon. Our hero tells him that he knows the secret technique taught by his sister, the same one he used to defeat Onyx. This is the only thing they can rely on right now. When Belakin seems unsure, he points out that fighting is better than hiding and dying in a closed space. Trusting Charlotte's technique, Belakin finally agrees to place his faith in Crash. They stand together under the heavy rain as the demon approaches, ready to execute their plan. Belakin starts the ignition while our hero focuses, gathering his sword and aura. He is impressed by the purity of the energy, but he secretly feels bitter that a failure can harness a power he never could. Pushing his jealousy aside, Belakin begins transferring his Ignis to our hero. Now, the boy once called a failure is confident enough to kill the monster alone, refusing any further help. Looking at him, Belakin is almost certain his little brother will win. However, the thought deeply bothers him. If Crash defeats a monster he couldn't overcome, the boy will surpass him completely. On the other hand, our hero remains fully focused on the battle, striking the monster repeatedly. With a final attack, he slashes through the enemy, burning it to ashes. As it burns, the area finally returns to normal. Yet, Belakin hasn't changed from his past life. His expression grows dull, and his desire to kill Crash remains. In that exact moment he realizes he no longer possesses Ignis. Our hero has fulfilled every condition required to steal the skill, borrowing aura from the owner, proving he can use it better, and shattering the owner's pride. Having successfully stolen Ignis, he attacks Belakin, leaving him helpless on the ground. He then picks up a burning coal and forces it into his brother's mouth, making him experience the exact pain he inflicted on Crash in the past. Our protagonist had always tried to build a good relationship with his brother, but Belakin was always too arrogant to give him a chance. As he faces his final moments, our boy simply enjoys the weather. Soon after, the Valheim household receives news that Belakin and his entire team have died. Each personal butler refuses to believe that only the family's failures survived. Instead, everyone assumes he died protecting his younger brother, and they begin to respect his sacrifice. Meanwhile, walking past by, Crash feels satisfied. This experience gave him the answers and confirmations he needed. He now knows he can control his rampages a little using the sixth sense, and his body can use the extreme blood toxin. Most importantly, by stealing Ignis, he can now use flame powers, which are highly effective against erosion. Now, he can use flames as his special power and focus on his final task in the main house, gathering information about the abnormal phenomena inside the world erosion zones. While no one knows the true cause, world erosion itself seems responsible for everything. Its main body is still trapped in a dream, keeping it away from the world. That is why it uses the undead to connect with the real world. Soon after, in a room, Crash meets with the World Erosion Investigation Team, specifically an investigator named Sapphira. As they stand together, he notices a small black star on her neck. He instantly realizes she is one of the undead. Since he expected to encounter someone like her, he simply offers to bring her back to life. Sapphira's expression and body language change instantly as she realizes our hero is a regressor. There is an immortal known as Crimson Garden August. In the past life, Arthur and his team tried to steal his immortality, but they failed miserably. Still, they managed to keep Crimson Garden busy by forcing his body to endlessly regenerate, preventing him from interfering with the world through other undead. At the time, some team members felt guilty that the immortal could not even use his own body because of the curse, while others were glad since he had interfered with the real world far too much. Crash, however, was only disappointed that he had failed to steal the immortality. It had been impossible back then, since the skill required the user to become more powerful than the immortal himself. Back in the room of the main house, Crash is confused about why this undead being thinks he is a regressor. It is likely because of the confidence he carries despite being just a child. The immortal sees him as someone trapped in time, while it views itself as a being that transcends time entirely. It refuses to believe anyone can kill it until our hero finally uses his skill. The immortal suddenly realizes that, in its long search for someone strong enough to kill it, it has finally met someone who can steal the curse of immortality. When asked about the requirement, our boy explains that the immortal must make him stronger than itself so he can fulfill the condition to steal the curse. Desperate for freedom, Crimson Garden is willing to do whatever it takes. With the agreement made, an intense aura fills the room, even though the immortal's true body is not there. Crash believes that an entity capable of fighting Arthur and his strongest companions can help him grow powerful. He is determined to stop the end of the world, even if it means wielding the power of corruption. Since only one person can possess the scale of regression at a time, the power will eventually pass to Arthur. If our hero fails to save the world this time, his very existence will vanish. Thus, our hero becomes the student of this undead being, Krim, who insists he call him master. As they walk together, Krim notes that the main house is no longer Crash's true home. He left it so long ago that he can barely remember his parents' faces. Just then, a servant arrives to announce that our hero's mother has called for him. This is unsettling, as she never showed interest in him before, not even when he lived at Chongsong Hall. The rumors of his sudden change must have caught her attention. Furthermore, the head of the house wishes to meet him as well. This is surprising, but since Crash's father is a legendary, god-level figure, he may have sensed something unusual about him through the stars. Despite being advised to stay overnight, Crash decides to return to his pavilion because Bianca is waiting, and he has other matters to handle. He promises to return once his father arrives, or personally demands a meeting. With that, he leaves the house with Krim. When asked about his physical form, Krim mentions that being a regressor, our hero knows well enough that his real body is trapped elsewhere. Our hero sees no reason to correct him, or explain that he is actually just borrowing Arthur's regression skill. He doesn't really possess it. Before long, they reach the pavilion and find Ariad and Bianca waiting with a letter from Darling. The letter announces Darling's upcoming arrival, and reports the successful creation of a medicine for color change disease. Crash asks Ariad to take good care of Darling upon arrival for his own good. The old man understands and then mentions that Bianca has been worried about him this entire time, even all ready to go to the main house to see him. Realizing it has been a while since he checked Bianca's status, Crash uses his skill to inspect her first lock. To his surprise, he discovers it has finally been unlocked. To Crash's surprise, now that the first lock is open, he can take his next steps. He introduces Krim, who is currently disguised as a crow, to Bianca. She immediately grabs him and starts cuddling, while the undead master struggles desperately to break free. Amid the chaos, our boy focuses on the second lock, which requires him to become an important person in Bianca's life. Using all the possible choices, being her fiancé places him closest to the role of a lover. However, being an adult on the inside, it feels a little strange for him to look forward to that. After finally getting free from Bianca's grip, Krim lands directly on our hero's head. He declares that Crash's training will begin immediately, and demands to see his true abilities. They soon arrive at the training grounds. Krim is highly disappointed by his student's raw talent and openly mocks him. To him, it is clear our boy has only come this far because of his past experiences and secret skills. In his current state, any true genius could easily surpass him within 5 years. However, Krim believes that while our hero lacks natural talent, he can always steal it. The undead promises to support him and help him become the strongest person alive, someone capable of achieving anything, including stealing his immortal curse. A few days later, when Crash was training, Darling arrives looking excited and happy. He hands a bottle of medicine to him, earning praise as a genius. Darling also mentions that Annex's behavior has changed drastically, and that he has started training again. Hearing this makes our hero feel proud of his impact. He then tells Darling to return home. Before he can leave, Krim speaks up. He had been planning to give our boy an elixir to strengthen his body, and realizes Darling, a great alchemist, is the perfect person to brew it. An elixir is a rare medicine that increases physical strength. They are usually incredibly expensive and passed down through family bloodlines. In his past life, Crash could never afford one, as they were reserved for the elite. Now that Krim knows the formula, he can have Darling make it. However, he agrees, but gathering the rare ingredients is a problem. Fortunately, our hero plans to handle that using his knowledge of the past. With Krim's help, he forces Darling to write down the entire formula, using the excuse that the recipe was passed down through the Valheim family. The ingredients still present a challenge. The first item, Snow White Solar Fungus, grows in Hardened Heart territory, so Crash can simply ask Bianca to get it from her family. However, the second item, the Golden Dragon Herb, is found only in remote vampire regions. They could try to buy it on the black market, but getting caught by the nobles would cause massive trouble. To avoid that risk, Darling suggests that our boy enter the Aphania Empire tournament, which is held exclusively for juniors. The winner of the tournament receives the Golden Dragon Herb as a reward. However, joining the tournament is difficult, as the Empire likely organized it for political leverage against the Academy. But this great alchemist already has a bizarre solution. He hands our hero a potion, and as soon as he drinks it, his body transforms into that of a girl. Standing nearby, Darling believes that as long as his identity stays hidden, he can enter the tournament without a problem. This only makes Krasin furious, causing a panicked Darling to apologize immediately. A few days later, our hero trains with Krim. Countless attacks fill the session, yet our hero manages to block every single strike. He has learned a new, high-level technique that allows him to naturally predict his opponent's attacks. Because he also possesses a sixth sense and natural intuition, he has mastered it much faster than expected. Once he takes the elixir, his body will strengthen, allowing his brain and movements to synchronize perfectly and make him even stronger. When the training session ends, Kras prepares to leave. He takes the disguise potion that Darling gave him, which will allow him to pass as a commoner from another kingdom and easily enter the tournament. Our hero is fully ready to depart. At the entrance, Ariad has arranged for a merchant to guide him into the Empire through an illegal route. To keep his plans a secret, Crash chooses to travel with a dealer of eroded species, leaving Green Pine Manor behind in Ariad's hands. The old man vows to protect the manor and bar anyone from entering, even the head of the family. Our boy trusts him completely now, especially since he cured his daughter using the medicine from Darling. In return for saving his daughter, Ariad has sworn lifelong loyalty to him. Meanwhile, Bianca helps him by securing the snow-white sun fungus. She even packs sandwiches for his journey she made by herself. At her request, Crash promises to return to the manor as soon as possible. Finally, he climbs into the cart and begins his journey, wishing Bianca safety and good fortune before leaving. Along the way, the cart stops for a rest, and our hero resumes his training. Thanks to his sixth sense, he can now control the energy of erosion. However, he is disappointed that the merchant chose a route far away from the erosion zones, preventing him from absorbing any unpurified energy during the trip. While they talk, Krim suddenly notices the merchant is in trouble. A group of men is bullying this young woman, who fears she is about to die. Before things can get worse, our hero steps in and instantly kills the two men holding her. Seeing this, the leader of the group orders the rest of his men to attack. They rush forward one by one, but Crash cuts them all down. With only the leader left, the man charges forward, mistaking a kid for an ordinary traveler. However, he quickly realizes that our boy is predicting and blocking every single move. Despite the danger, the leader refuses to retreat. He rushes forward again, suddenly unleashing the Phantom Battle Axe technique. Crash successfully defends himself, but the moment he recognizes the skill, he realizes the man is a disciple of Slaughter Dog. Butcher Dog is the one who became a servant of world corruption in the past life, alongside Bianca, the White Demon. Back then, he killed countless people before Charlotte finally defeated him. That victory was the exact reason Charlotte became famous throughout the Empire. However, in this world, it is still too early for him to be involved in those dark matters. Seeing his subordinates operating in a lawless zone leaves Crash both confused and worried. Back in the fight, our hero uses Ignis to burn down the enemy leader. Afterward, he collects some golden dragon grass and continues toward his destination. Meanwhile, far away in Ceylon, the imperial capital, the fourth princess of the empire watches the tournament participants with joy and excitement. She plans to cause some mischief, but quickly backs off when the woman behind her reminds her that her father would be furious over her silly actions. At 7 years old, Princess Sisley was a brilliant child who could solve complex math problems with ease. People believed she would rewrite the empire's history. They even decided to inform the Highness about her talent. However, she knew her frail body would never survive a struggle for the throne. To save herself from the political turmoil, she deliberately chose to act like a spoiled child. It did not take long for everyone to give up on her and consider her unfit for the imperial succession. The woman who has looked after her for years is Sarah, who understands her better than anyone else. Standing on the first floor, Sisley notices our hero in Krim, who is perched on his shoulder in the form of a crow. She immediately suspects that he might belong to the Valheim family. Even though Sarah assures her that no Valheim would ever come to this place, she jumps down to investigate for herself. She rushes toward him but loses her balance along the way. Crash catches her just in time, but he quickly walks away without saying much. Even so, the way he speaks is enough to confirm to her that he knows her true identity. On the other hand, our hero intends to avoid her as much as possible. He proceeds to register for the tournament using a fake name and address. However, when he tries to book a room, he discovers that every single place is fully occupied. Although, the problem is quickly solved when an old woman offers him a place to stay. Krim finds the sudden offer suspicious. Crash accepts it immediately. Even when Krim protests, he doesn't pay attention and refuses to sleep outside. Soon after, they arrive at the old woman's house, where she gives him a room and asks him to show up for dinner in a while. Afterward, our boy heads upstairs and unexpectedly finds Sisley waiting for him. It is now clear that the entire encounter was planned from the start. However, Crash completely ignores her and walks straight toward his room. The princess refuses to leave him alone, asking question after question even when he insults her. She even suggests they eat together to get to know each other better, but end up getting a cold rejection. That, however, makes the princess a little furious as she does something shocking. Having already figured out his true identity, she suddenly calls him by his real name. Despite being called by his real name, our hero decides to act confused and keep his Valheim identity a secret. Meanwhile, Sisley continues trying to figure him out. He claims she should act like a child, eat his dinner, and go to bed early. She tries to defend, but Crash simply brushes it aside. While he eats his dinner, the little princess stands over with Sarah. The only reason she managed to deduce that our boy is from Starlon is because even when someone changes their accent, the core essence of their speech remains. This demonstrates Sisley's extraordinary ability to notice the smallest details. Her analytical skills are exceptional, making her talent comparable to the mind's eye. Still, she finds it strange that our hero seems to know so much about her, even though she has no memory of ever meeting him. When Sarah suggests investigating him further, the princess rejects the idea and tells her not to interfere. Instead, she asks Sarah about her sister, the third princess, Sigrin. After looking into the matter, it becomes clear that Sigrin has changed drastically over the past year. Sisley had already suspected this, since recently she can feel the danger vibes from her. This realization makes her worry about the first and second princesses as well. Back on the battlefield, Crash continues to defeat his opponents with remarkable ease, once again drawing the crowd's attention. Krim's presence on his shoulder only makes him stand out more. Meanwhile, the little princess continues to question him at every opportunity, which gradually irritates him. Still, he is relieved that her interference does not affect his matches. The preliminary round consists of 100 participants fighting simultaneously on a single battlefield. The chaotic battle continues until only the top 4 competitors remain to advance to the finals. After his match, Crash walks through the corridors, where a strange man with bandages approaches him. The character of our protagonist belongs to the Night Raven, the Empire's most feared underground assassin organization. Night Raven operates outside the Empire's official law, and in the past life, they were the primary reason the Empire eventually fell. Since Crash never visited this region in his previous life, he has very little information about their involvement in the tournament. Trying to avoid trouble, he attempts to clear up the misunderstanding. The man tells him not to worry, claims he has no idea who is backing our hero, and walks away, leaving him confused. But Krim takes action immediately. Moving to a secluded area, he uses his brainwashing skill on the man. Once the man is under his control, our hero questions him about Night Raven. The man confirms that the organization has been deeply in destruction since a while ago. A short while later, the situation becomes even more confusing. Night Raven was originally supposed to be in tournament, but the bandaged man reveals that everything changed because of their new leader, the second prince of the Iphaenia Empire. This revelation is incredibly strange. Night Raven is usually a shadow trap used to monitor nobles, and the imperial family is the most involved one with them. Hearing that the second prince is their new master is unsettling. Even more concerning is the fact that the imperial family's connection to Night Raven remained a complete secret until the empire's fall in the past life. The fact that an ordinary member knows about it suggests that someone is leaking information. After weighing the facts, the confusion clears up. The mastermind behind this plot must be Sigrin. The second prince was originally supposed to support the first princess. Therefore, removing the second prince from the board makes the path to power much easier for Sigrin. The more our hero thinks about it, the more convinced he becomes that someone is manipulating events from the shadows. For Crash, it is now clear that Arthur's inherited memories actually succeeded, granting Sigrin knowledge of the future. With those memories, Sigrin will eventually target Sisley because she is the one who will have the Emperor's symbol, the White Dragon Pearl, and is destined to commit suicide after hiding it. She is also the exact person who originally made Arthur the Emperor. That was the sole reason Sigrin became involved with Arthur in the first place, to steal the throne. Although he succeeds in becoming the Emperor, the Empire will fall much sooner than expected, which will accelerate the spread of world erosion. To prevent this misfortune, our hero needs to stop Sigrin and ruin her plans. He decides the best course of action is to steal her skill, and he asks Krim for assistance. At first he hesitates, but he eventually agrees to help. As for the brainwashed man, Krim turns him into a servant and sends him back to his post. Now that Crash's appearance has already changed due to the disguise potion, he decides to use his new identity to uncover the true members of Night Raven hiding in the shadows. In the main event of the martial arts tournament, Crash defeats his opponent and impresses the crowd. At this point, almost everyone believes he is a member of Night Raven. Standing by the battlefield, our hero notices the fourth princess, who attended the event despite his warning. After the last match they had, he approached her and warned her to protect herself. His words convince Sisley that she has missed something by not paying close enough attention lately. Within the royal spy they hired, Sarah decides to double-check the case. Back in the present, through our hero's deduction, the truth becomes clear. The princess's presence proves she found out about Sigrin's plan. Along with it, seeing someone else taking credit for Night Raven's fame, he's expecting the Night Raven to show up. Eventually, he takes his leave to wait for the real one to show up. As Crash walks through the corridor, a strange man appears, just as expected. Although our hero did not expect them to arrive this early, the strange man suddenly draws daggers and rushes toward him with insane speed. However, he manages to dodge every single attack. When the enemy tries a frontal assault, our boy grabs his hand. Suddenly, strange, dagger-like spikes burst from the enemy's back, aiming straight at him. Once again, he protects himself using quick kicks. The technique the enemy just used was an eroder's world erosion power, which is almost useless against Crash. He even knows that behind the strange disguise is a girl named Ebelask who is an eroder. Knowing that her heart is in possession of Sigrin, he decides to make a deal with Ebelask. He offers to bring back her heart in return for the information about Sigrin. Ebelask is someone whose heart was taken away even in the past life, and she was kept prisoner by the Empire for 1,000 years. Back then, Arthur found her helpful and decided to bring her along, though the leadership disliked her. The only information they had about her was that she was the world's only necromancer. The fact that she belonged to Night Raven was kept hidden. Now that he thinks about the past mess-up and connects the keys, most likely Arthur found out about this, which was the exact reason she disappeared back then. Back in the present, Crash reaches a room filled with webs and garbage. Deep inside sits the necromancer. Our hero meets her and as planned, he uses his black hood to set her heart free. However, fulfilling the conditions is impossible, but if she truly trusts him with her fate, it will be easier for him to retrieve her heart. She claims she is ready to trust him, but she is not speaking from the bottom of her heart. To win her over, Crash reminds her of how long she has been slaving away. He tells her that once she gets her heart back, she can live a comfortable life, making corpses do all her work while she simply eats and enjoys herself. If she doesn't get her heart back now, she will have to obey the nobles for the rest of her life. This fact terrifies her, as she has already served them for centuries. Left with no choice, she decides to fully entrust her heart to our hero. She agrees to his terms because she simply wants to be free. In exchange for his help, Crash demands to know Ebelask's deepest, truest wish. She cries out loud, begging him to take her heart away. With that emotional breakthrough, her chains shatter, and she is finally on the path to freedom. Her heart is now possessed by Crash. Finally, the lock opens, and our hero takes possession of Ebelask's heart. She immediately asks for it back, but Crash only agrees to return it once their business is finished. First, he questions her about Sigrin's plans. The truth finally comes to light. Sigrun intends to assassinate Sarah and use her corpse to kill the little princess. At the same time, in another location, Maria Diana successfully murders the innocent Sarah. Right after the deed is done, a corpse controlled by the necromancer arrives to collect her body. The real motivation behind all of these actions is Arthur. In the past world, the group had agreed to meet at the Statue of Peace on the very first Saturday after the regression. However, when they arrived at the meeting place, Arthur never showed up. They haven't heard a single word from him since that day. Still refusing to lose hope, Diana has spent the last year waiting for Arthur every single day. She is constantly training to become as strong as him so she can claim his praise. She is determined to work hard and do whatever it takes to make this current mission a success. As the controlled corpse picks up Sarah's body, Diana asks about our hero, who is currently competing in the martial arts tournament. She assumes he is just another corpse controlled by the necromancer, and the puppet agrees with her assumption. Before leaving, Diana warns Ebelask not to ruin the plan or try to escape. This evil lady believes that the necromancer's heart is in her possession. After that, Diana then takes her leave. She is fully aware that Crash is a Valheim, and she openly calls him a total waste of space. The next day, our boy stands on the battlefield. His opponent is a pirate, a commoner, making him an unexpected challenger. Despite his humble background, the pirate possesses a pure heart and dreams of a peaceful world. He also wants to prove that a pirate was a powerhouse worthy of the Blue Sky generation. For the first time in the tournament, Crash decides to use his sword. The pirate assures him that since they have both already reached the finals, they are guaranteed admission to the academy. He believes that our protagonist no longer needs to live as an assassin or a member of Night Raven, because no country can interfere with the Rahalan Academy. Before the match starts, our hero offers the pirate some kind of advice. He should not alone cling on hope since once it's crushed, he won't know what to do. After a while, as soon as the battle begins, the pirate rushes forward with incredible speed. However, our hero immediately recognizes his footwork and blocks the attack easily. After failing to land a hit multiple times, the pirate realizes that his swordsmanship is completely being understood. In his past life, our hero actually knew this pirate. Because he was born in a region that snowed all year, his movements had naturally evolved to look like he was sliding on ice. He had put in so much effort that he eventually became as strong as Anix and even created the 10 Steps of Heaven technique. Because he has seen him practice, Crash knows the pirate's every move and skill better than the pirate himself does. On the other hand, watching his student perfectly blend his sixth sense, past experience, and knowledge of his opponent, Krim is deeply impressed. During the fight, our boy kindly tells the pirate to keep getting stronger. He explains that even if the pirate's situation becomes hopeless, his death can at least serve as an example that gives hope to others. And with his final strike, the match ends. He remembers how, in his past life, this defeated guy was the only one who thanked him when he removed his curse, promising to work hard to save the world. Even in this life, the pirate hopes to meet our hero again at the academy. Meanwhile, watching from above, the second prince, Shafanophania, observes the match. Also assuming that the winner is a member of Night Raven, he praises the necromancer's work. He secretly assures himself that if things continue to go his way, and he brings more nobles to his side, he will finally become king. Suddenly the Black Knight, who usually punishes criminals, interrupts the event. Diana arrives alongside them, loudly accusing the second prince of being a murderer of Sisley. Despite the prince's protests, Diana informs the crowd that an official assassination order targeting Sisley was discovered at a Night Raven hideout. The second prince shouts to defend himself, but something shocking happens right then. The fourth princess appears safely alongside Sarah. She confirms that they never even sensed an assassination attempt, and that she is perfectly fine. Seeing them both alive leaves Diana in complete shock. Sisley immediately notices Diana's panicked expression, and begins to wonder what kind of plot is happening behind her back. What actually happened was that when Sisley began to doubt their own spies, Sarah felt certain nothing would go wrong. However, when those spies started turning against them, Sarah grew worried and decided to investigate the situation herself. She was on her way to stay close to Sisley for protection when Krim appeared. The undead master granted her temporary immortality, and instructed her to play along with the unfolding events. She immediately recognized that the crow belonged to our hero. Before she could question Krim or realize she was walking into a trap, Diana suddenly ambushed her, stabbing her with a spear. If Krim hadn't intervened in time, both her and the little princess would have died right there. The fourth princess orders the arrest of the Black Dragon's vice captain. She also publicly exposes Diana, pointing out that she only brought the Black Knights to the scene because she was completely convinced her targets were dead. She orders Sarah to take Diana down. Instead, the caretaker strikes another knight standing nearby. Meanwhile, the enemy stands frozen, completely confused by how her plan failed. She had ordered the necromancer to kill them both, yet they were standing there perfectly fine. To make matters worse, all the hidden spies they had placed within the Black Dragons were now being rounded up. With no one else to blame, Diana assumes that the fourth princess uncovered the entire plot through her own sharp observation. This intelligence is the exact reason Sigrun wants her dead, as she poses a massive threat to their future plans. Desperate, Diana reaches her hand into a portal where she believes the necromancer's heart is kept, commanding her to kill the fourth princess immediately. Standing right there, the necromancer realizes that Crash hasn't actually taken possession of her heart yet. Unable to resist a direct order, she screams for him to help her. In a sudden flash of light, the portal holding the heart vanishes from Diana's grasp. Watching her plans fall apart, and losing her leverage over the necromancer, the lady feels defeated for a moment. However, her malice takes over, deciding to take advantage of the crowd's distraction over Ebelask. She resolves to kill the fourth princess herself. She rushes forward using her skill, Axel, which grants her unmatched speed. To her surprise, just in time, our boy steps into her path and blocks the strike, leaving the crowd in absolute awe. Looking face to face with her, Crash remarks that Diana hasn't changed a bit. His words leave her shocked. She cannot believe that a stranger not only blocked her ultimate speed attack, but is also speaking to her as if he knows her truly. Taking advantage of the opening, the second prince orders the Black Knights to arrest Diana for attempted murder. As they secure her, regret finally sinks in for taking such reckless actions. She silently hopes that Sigrun and Arthur will come to her rescue. As Diana is led away, our hero reflects on the clash. Even with Black Flame, he barely managed to block her attack. While he succeeded, he realizes he still needs much more practice. Still, he is relieved that Sisley is safe. In the middle of the crowd's confusion, Crash decides it is the perfect time to slip away, disappearing alongside the necromancer. However, the princess is unsatisfied that she didn't get the chance to thank him. Determined to repay his kindness, she resolves to follow him to the academy. On the other hand, using the teleportation ability of Ebelask, our hero safely reappears in a different location. As promised, she hands over the golden dragon herb, and he returns her heart. She is stunned by his honesty, as she fully expected to be forced into serving him. She remarks that he is different from other eroders. She calls him an eroder, because she witnessed him using erosion power to block Diana's attack. Her belief is further reinforced because the black flame had burned through all the energy our protagonist had previously absorbed using the extreme blood poison. While this misunderstanding is the exact reason Ebelask trusted him, he realizes it might cause other eroders to mistake him for one of their own in the future. Eventually, interrupting his thoughts, Krim gives a concerning information. On the pavilion, Bianca isn't in the right condition. According to the information Krim gathered, Bianca was attacked by the butcher dog in the mountains of the Hardened Heart territory, and has been missing ever since. Worry takes over Crash. Cursing the butcher dog, he decides to head to the Hardened Heart territory immediately. He takes the necromancer with him. As they sit in the vehicle, she expresses confusion over our hero having a fiancé. To clear up it all, Crash drops his disguise and returns to his original physical appearance, introducing himself with his real identity. Seeing his true form leaves the necromancer completely surprised. Meanwhile, far away in the mountains of the Hardened Heart territory, the family's second daughter Janica cries inside a tent. She blames herself for lying to Bianca about not having the snow sun fungus, which was the exact reason she went into the dangerous mountains alone. Because Janica was worried, she had gathered a search party to follow her little sister. When she caught up, Janica tried to convince her that she would personally find whatever the Valheim family needed. However, she had her true concern for her little sister. Instead, she acted as if she hated Bianca's presence and wanted her to leave as soon as possible. Believing her sister genuinely hated her, Bianca believes she also blames her for their mother's death, although she promised to leave the territory the moment she found the fungus. While the sisters were arguing, the butcher dog suddenly appeared. He slaughtered the entire search team. Using the chaos to their advantage, the two sisters managed to hide behind the cliffs. Even in danger, Bianca remained focused on finding the snow sun fungus. Janica silenced her and quickly explained a strategy. Equipped with movement artifacts, they planned to lure the murderer into the treacherous crevasse zone. On the other hand, the butcher dog remained completely confident that the two girls could never escape him. Soon after, Bianca and her sister reached the edge of a deep cliff. They decided their only choice was to jump to a nearby ledge, even though a single mistake meant certain death. At that exact moment, the butcher dog caught up to them, forcing them to make the leap. Fortunately, they landed safely on the small foothold, but the enemy spotted them instantly. When he attempted to jump onto the foothold after them, Bianca lunged at him, tackling him into the deep void below. That was the last time Janica saw her sister. Despite the fall, the team is certain she must still be alive, since a thick layer of snow covered the area where they landed. However, Janica cannot stop blaming herself, deeply regretting her lie about the fungus. A companion tries to calm her down, but she remains trapped in her grief. She knows that even if Bianca somehow survived the murderer, she could not survive alone in the frozen mountains for an entire week. Somewhere deep in the snowy mountains, Bianca wakes up. She has been surviving on nuts for days. Thanks to the snow heat sun fungus, which generates natural heat, she has managed to stay warm in the freezing weather. While heading toward higher ground to send a distress signal, she happens to find the exact area where the snow heat sun fungus grows. Using knowledge from her books, she successfully makes food and medicine to heal her wounds. However, her physical stamina has already reached its absolute limit. As she reflects on her survival, the butcher dog suddenly ambushes her from behind. He swings to kill her, but she bends down to pick up some nuts at that exact moment. Unaware of his presence, she accidentally dodges the lethal attack. The murderer quickly recovers and grabs her by the neck, already planning to steal her hair ornament to sell it. In what she believes are her final moments, Bianca can only think about Green Pine Manor, where she spent the days under our hero's care. She misses those days deeply, as they left a lasting emotional impression on her. She feels a lingering sense of guilt for her usual lack of emotions, believing that if she were normal, she could have cherished those moments even more. She calls out for Crash. To her surprise, he actually appears and delivers a powerful punch to the enemy's stomach. He catches Bianca in his arms and hands her over to his companions to be protected. Krim cannot provide much help, as his subordinates cannot engage in direct combat. Furthermore, even Ebelask refuses to fight because she is terrified of the butcher dog. Still, the necromancer helps our boy by using her warp ability to close the distance during the rescue. Even so, Krim worries that Crash will lose against the murderer, who is vastly stronger. He however believes in his own strength and is determined to win. Before the duel begins, he snatches Bianca's hair ornament back from the butcher dog and introduces himself. Realizing the fiancé has finally shown up, the butcher dog immediately charges forward, swinging his massive axe. Even when Crash manages to block the strike, he barely withstands the sheer force, even while utilizing his sixth sense. On the other hand, the murderer only cares about the massive reward money he will collect for taking both of them. The enemy is a top-tier expert, while our protagonist has only recently reached the mid-tier expert rank. He struggles heavily in the clash, while the enemy remains completely confident in his victory. Finding an opening, the enemy unleashes a heavy attack on our hero, but when the smoke clears and the enemy's vision returns, he discovers that his target has vanished. The confusion does not last long. Crash had hidden beneath the thick snow. The moment he spots an opening, he bursts out and punches the murderer squarely, breaking his ribs and preventing him from recovering. He decides to end the battle immediately using Ignis. However, at the very last second, the opponent counters with Phantom Binding, which causes trouble. Aware that the search party will arrive soon, the enemy plans to quickly kill his target before help can reach them. Because of the secret technique, our hero's senses begin to fade. However, he has survived this exact situation before. Back then, he managed to escape the trap by using Mind's Eye. Having successfully countered the technique once again, he pretends to still be affected. He bides his time, waiting for the murderer to drop his guard and believe he has already won. The enemy rushes forward to deliver a finishing blow. However, when Crash effortlessly blocks the strike, the murderer realizes his opponent is perfectly fine. Unsure how much longer his Phantom Binding skill will last, the enemy backs away. He becomes much more cautious, finally realizing that our hero is no ordinary fighter. He tries to taunt Bianca to distract him, but our hero refuses to react. Frustrated, the murderer unleashes phantom axes, creating an infinite illusion designed to torture the target until he collapses from sheer exhaustion. Dozens of glowing red crosses form in the sky, raining down on our boy one after another as he struggles to block every single strike. Watching from safety, the necromancer, who is in the form of a sparrow, grows deeply worried. She debates whether she should enter the fray and kill the enemy herself. However, she hesitates, terrified that the butcher dog's master, the mad dog, will hunt her down for revenge. Refusing to act like a coward and abandon the man who granted her freedom, she prepares to step in. Before she can move, Krim interferes. He tells her to stand down, explaining that Crash chose this path himself and must be trusted. Though she reluctantly agrees to wait, she remains filled with anxiety, silently vowing that if our protagonist dies, she will personally preserve his corpse. Meanwhile in the fight, he stands bloodied and exhausted, pushed to his absolute limit. His aura is completely drained from constantly using Mind's Eye to read the illusionary attacks. With his energy depleted, he is forced to fight relying purely on raw instinct. He swings his sword with all his remaining strength, finally seeing through the illusion. But just as the false reality shatters, the enemy leaps high into the air, ready to cut him down. With no other options left, Crash plays his final card. Long ago, he came to realize that he was not as naturally talented as his legendary seniors. He could never defeat overwhelming power with righteous strength alone. Fully determined, he uses Ignis Flame to ignite and convert the world erosion energy stored inside his body from the extreme blood poison. The forbidden power forces his attributes past the absolute limits of the human body, though he can only maintain this state for a mere 3 seconds. With blood pouring from his eyes and his blade erupting in flames, our hero charges the enemy. Yet, the attack misses its mark when the murderer counters with Phantom Voice, a sonic skill that completely disrupts the victim's aim. Taking advantage of the miss, the enemy lunges forward with razor-sharp claws, aiming directly for the throat. At the brink of death, our hero attempts to defend himself with his martial arts, but the brutal claw strike disarms him. In that split second of total desperation, Crash achieves enlightenment, reaching the ultimate state, the realm of oneness with the world. A massive aura of blue energy erupts around him. Rushing forward through the strike, he slashes clean through the enemy. At the cost of sacrificing his own arm, our hero successfully defeats the butcher dog. Exhausted but satisfied with the victory, he finally collapses. With that, the group decides to make a swift escape. Using the necromancer's warp ability, they safely teleport away toward the Seishoken. In the past life, on the very day they met for the last time, Bianca had confessed her confusion to our hero. She didn't know what was worse, having no emotions at all, or finally feeling them. That was the last conversation they ever had after the Valheim family decided to break off their engagement. The sudden betrayal was triggered when the patriarch of the Hardenheart family went insane, slaughtering his own family and then himself. Thanks to the sacrifice of her elder sister Janica, Bianca was the only survivor. Viewing the alliance as worthless now that her family was ruined, the Valheims abruptly cancelled the marriage and arranged one final meeting between the former fiancé. It was the exact moment when Crash successfully stole her curse. That time he had already burdened his body with so many curses that adding her snow doll curse didn't seem like a big deal. However, the sudden rush of regaining all her repressed emotions turned Bianca into a literal monster. Exactly 3 years later, the Hardenheart territory gets into a massive war with the Alphania Empire, taking Starlan and the Impact all along. The conflict erupted because the Empire's second prince went to Hardenheart for protection. It's when the Empire had deployed the Poison King to silence a massive secret, information held by the second prince that could shatter the very foundation of the Empire. He was the one who had driven the Hardenheart Patriarch insane, inadvertently sparking the entire war. Seeking vengeance for the tragedy, the White Ghost eventually hunted down and killed the Poison King. During the chaos of that war, our heroes struggled to survive the frontline attacks, bitterly cursing the Starlan soldiers for their reckless tactics. To make matters worse, a group of enemy soldiers ambushed him, determined to kill him simply for belonging to the Blue Sky generation. Because his body was already decaying from countless curses, even the Saintess could no longer heal him. With no other options, he fled toward the place where Bianca was staying, hoping she could protect him. As expected, she saved his life by slaughtering the soldiers. She stepped out of the door with a blade pierced through her chest, and collapsed onto the frozen ground. In her dying breaths, she made a heartbreaking confession. She revealed that on the night of the family massacre, her sisters had actually locked her in a safe cage to protect her. She also confesses she never hated her. At the time of the massacre, her curse had blocked her emotions, leaving her completely numb as her family was destroyed. But once our hero took the curse away, and her feelings returned, the crushing weight of reality hit her. She finally understood how deeply her sister had loved her. She bitterly regretted being emotionless back then, realizing that if she had been normal, they could have supported each other through the dark times. and she might have happily married Crash. Back in the present, our boy's eyes snap open as the nightmare of the past fades away. He finds himself resting in a bed, his body tightly wrapped in bandages, with Bianca sitting quietly by his side. Krim and she step forward to check on him. Ignoring his own pain, he immediately scolds Bianca for recklessly venturing into the mountains alone, pointing out how difficult it was to rescue her without Krim's direct assistance. Bianca softly confesses that she only went because she wanted to secure the snow sun fungus for him. Brushing his anger aside, Crash returns her stolen hair ornament and thanks her, noting that with the fungus, he can finally brew the elixir he needs. In response, she only confesses that even when he was sacrificing his own arm to save her from the butcher dog, she felt absolutely nothing inside. However, it's true that she desperately wants to share a true bond with him, to laugh during his happy moments and weep beside him during times of sadness. Yet, even though she hates her own emptiness, she refuses to let him suffer the same fate by absorbing her curse. Our hero gently reassures her, promising that his unique body can easily withstand the curse's side effects. Reluctantly, Bianca yields and allows him to proceed. Activating his skill, Crash shatters the spiritual locks binding her soul, drawing the ancient curse out of her body. As the cold numbness melts away, Bianca experiences true human emotion for the very first time. She tightly clings to our hero's chest and begins to sob uncontrollably, weeping the exact same words she had spoken in the past life, wishing she had gained her emotions sooner so the world wouldn't have looked so empty for so long. After a while, Bianca feels better. However, her cool side returns, making our hero wonder if she is struggling to process her feelings. Meanwhile, Bianca's older sister arrives. She first worries about her swollen eyes, and then invites her to lunch, just as their brother requested. Since Crash is in terrible shape, Janica decides to send meals directly to his room instead. However, he is unsure if they actually want to talk as a family. In his past life, Janica apologized to her sister for everything at this exact moment, but this time, he reassures Bianca that she does not have to forgive her right away. If she dislikes Janica's sudden change in behavior, she can simply ignore it, especially since they will be leaving for home together soon. Feeling relieved, Bianca takes her leave. On the other hand, Crash orders Krim to watch everything outside and report back later. He is determined to burn the entire place down if anyone says something cruel to her finance. Krim brushes the threat aside and reminds him that he has already lost his arm. He doubts Crash can even steal immortality in this condition. However, our boy believes a Saintess can fix his arm quickly. In the Holy Land of Freeman, there is a Saintess with divine powers who can even bring the dead back to life. Krim still doubts that the Valheim family would spend a fortune on a Saintess for someone they consider a failure. Because of this very reason, he has other plans for a better arm. Seeing Ebelask stitching a dead man's arm will not be an issue. Krim laughs out loud, realizing how the hero is using the situation. He sees returners as someone who always keeps his plans on track. When asked about the arm, the hero mentions the Sword Demon. Behind him, the main body of the Crimson Garden grows frustrated upon hearing that name. The Sword Demon was a legendary swordsman who mastered the quick draw style, the fastest cutting technique, where enemies could not even see the blade move. He was also the Crimson Garden's most prized subordinate. Following this, the Crimson Garden's main body shouts that he will never sacrifice the Sword Demon or let Crash have him. However, he's aware of the main body's weakness. He cares deeply about all his subordinates because he can only see the world through their eyes. In his past life, Arthur used those exact coordinates and tortured them, forcing the Crimson Garden's main body to reveal his own location. Now Crash will use that same emotional attachment once again. With that, he reminds him that he can bring back the Sword Demon's great techniques if he agrees to transplant the arm. Cornered, the Crimson Garden agrees to hand over the arm in 2 days. Krim thanks him, and the worry about the arm is finally settled. At this point, our boy is just waiting to see how the Valheim family reacts to his latest news. He is slightly worried about lying to Ariad, having told him he was at Green Pine Manor when he is actually in Hardenheart's territory. Still, he brushes it aside, viewing Ariad as just a servant who should not care. Even so, he has a bad feeling about the situation. Meanwhile, during a family discussion, the eldest son of the Hardenheart's family, Mariokin, tries to force Bianca to break off her engagement. He wants to give the fiancé position to Janica instead. He believes the hero's powers will eventually awaken, given that he just defeated a notorious murderer, making him highly useful to their family. However, Bianca refuses to give up on the engagement because this relationship is all she has got. When her brother tries to insult her by calling her a cursed child, Janica steps in to defend and asks her brother to stop, but she falls silent when told to think about the family's situation. It is then that Bianca confesses the truth. She points out that no one in the family ever truly cared about her, nor could she care about them due to her condition. Because of this, she refuses to give up on Crash, even if it means getting kicked out of the Hardenheart's family. Her brother flies into a rage, but Crash interrupts after overhearing the conversation. Our boy brings up the rumors spreading everywhere. People are talking about how he sacrificed his arm to save Bianca, and how the Hardenheart's family's security is so poor that a murderer easily sneaked in and then they endangered a direct descendant of Valheim. Now that the second rumor starts to spread, it'll be a problem since even the patriarch is in the way. Getting scared, Mariokin lets Bianca do whatever she wants and allows her to handle the engagement herself. On the other hand, our boy vows never to abandon her over a foolish curse. This makes Bianca's brother realize that the two have formed a genuine bond, so he decides to get out of the matter. With that settled, Crash asks them to arrange for a scientist to heal his arm. He states that the results will be clear within 2 days, and that the success will greatly boost the scientist's own reputation. Mariokin, not fully understanding the complex situation, simply agrees to whatever he says. Meanwhile elsewhere, the boss of the murderer, Mad Dog, looks after our hero's case. 2 days later, in an open field in Hardenheart, our hero practices, trying to combine the sword demon's quick draw art with his one single strike. It requires concentrating his aura and the extreme blood poison into a single point. He calls himself stupid for attempting this now while only having a single arm. However, the Snowdoll curse has helped him immensely, allowing him to see the blind spot of fire-quenching erosion, a burning energy created from world erosion. By using it correctly, one can break past the body's physical limits. Yet, even though it works extremely well, the moment the effects of fire-quenching erosion end, the user collapses to the ground, unable to move. That is why Crash cannot use it for long, as it can damage his internal organs as well. While thinking about all of this and wondering if there is any cold energy he could utilize, he finds his next goal. He plans to steal the lunar shadow physique of Flame Emperor Aslan Igrit once his arm is fully healed. Soon after he visits the necromancer, one of her undead welcomes him and guides him to her. She is already prepared to transplant the arm according to their agreement. Although performing the procedure instantly will cause tremendous pain, our hero agrees to it anyway. With the help of her undead servants, she positions the evil's arm and prepares everything before finally beginning the magic required to attach it. First, heat is generated to fuse the arm to his body. Then, the nerves are connected, which is the most painful part of the entire process. After so much pain, finally, the arm is attached. As planned, Crash uses the extreme blood poison to regulate it. The reason he chooses to stay conscious during the process is that the extreme blood poison could go out of control while absorbing the arm. Because of this, he gradually allows the arm to acclimate to his aura. At first, the arm gets all swollen and gross, but eventually gets back into its normal shape. Afterward, they decide to test the quick draw art, and Krim asks Ebelask to lend him her training grounds. She initially refuses, but when he offers her the book, Hakuban, which she has been searching for, she instantly agrees. As they walk toward the practice area, Crimson Garden informs him that the sword demon's quick draw is not the same as ordinary swordsmanship. A normal quick draw technique stores aura inside the sheathed sword and releases it when the blade is drawn. The sword demon's technique goes further by breaking that aura into tiny particles, creating a stronger explosion and greater acceleration. When the energy peaks, the blade bursts out at incredible speed. Not fully understanding what he was told, Crash simply goes ahead and tries it himself. Gathering all the energy together, he slashes through the air, yet the blade can still be seen easily. This is unlike the sword demon's technique, where the speed is supposed to be so great that the sword becomes invisible. With that, our hero decides to return to Green Pine Manor to become stronger and try it again later. Before leaving, he thanks the number 8 undead for staying with him for several days while he trained. She simply tells him to be more confident, reminding him that she herself is a master rank fighter. As time passes, Ebelask shows up. He informs her that he is leaving and asks her to remain there, since if the Peaks capture her, the 5 elders and others will most likely try to make her their servant again. Leaving her behind, he also asks her to keep an eye on the Poison King and make sure he does not interfere with the Hardenheart family. At first, she becomes frightened upon hearing that name, but since her task is only to protect the Patriarch and keep watch, she agrees. With that, they part ways. Meanwhile, Ebelask feels it is probably better for her to stay away from our hero. Otherwise, she might begin to overlap him with her old comrades in her mind. After all, staying close to him can be dangerous. Even so, she still vows to repay his kindness whenever he needs her help. Crash finally returns to the manor with Bianca and his arm perfectly fine. Before his return, the main house had been asking about him. To handle the situation, Ariad used a messenger who already looked down on our hero. The old man reported that he was simply with Bianca. The main house did not suspect anything. Instead, they blamed the messenger for making an unnecessary fuss and fired him. Along with this news, they are expecting the head butler to show up as well. The head butlers evaluate how capable the direct descendants are and report their findings to the main house. Based on those results, the descendants are treated accordingly. However, Crash has been planning to show off his achievements anyway since he needs his family's help to steal Flame Emperor Aslan's lunar shadow physique. Additionally, Darling has been waiting for the materials as well. As he finally decides to head inside, Ariad informs that his elder sister is already in the house, waiting for him. As our boy stands there holding Bianca in his arms while she sleeps, his sister jumps right in front of them. He expected her arrival eventually, but she was there much sooner than planned, complaining about having to wait. As they talk, Crash senses an overwhelming aura radiating from her, making him wonder if his sister has already reached master rank. She tries to touch Bianca while talking about the fight our protagonist fought for her, but our hero steps back instantly, not letting her touch his fiancée. When asked about it, he excuses himself by saying he is simply surprised that she came to his house without informing him beforehand. Charlotte becomes a little furious at that response. She points toward the house and reminds him that it belongs to the family, so she can show up whenever she wants. She also complains about Crash not telling her about his contract with God. The way she keeps observing him makes him wonder if she has already awakened Mind-Eye. However, the confusion clears up very quickly, because she can sense something suspicious about him. Our hero finally realizes it is not Mind-Eye at all. She has awakened the next stage, seeing the world through the stars, known as the Star Eye. That is exactly why she was not defeated by the butcher dog, since his illusions never worked on her. It is also why she can see right through our boy's current state. According to Krim, the black flame looks like an ordinary black flame to most people. There are only a few rare individuals who can recognize it for what it truly is except Eroder and their subordinates. Our hero, however, is different from them. While Krim and his subordinates belong to the world erosion themselves, Crash mixes the power with his own aura, so most people simply mistake it for a curse. Despite this, our boy still decides to be cautious. If his sister realizes that he can control world erosion, she might kill him. When she asks how many techniques he can use, he simply says that he wants to try as many as possible. As the convo ends, Charlotte instructs him to take Bianca to his room and then meet her at the battleground, as she wants to see his skills firsthand. Soon after, at the battleground, our hero is understandably nervous because his sister is far more powerful than him. On the other hand, she stands there confidently, telling him to go all out. When he doesn't start the fight, she decides to attack first. Without even gathering her aura or drawing her real sword, Charlotte steps forward with only a wooden sword. As instructed, Crash goes all out from the very beginning. He first uses world erosion to break past his physical limits. As a powerful aura surrounds him, he uses the first form of fire-quenching erosion and successfully blocks his opponent's attack. Right after that, he unleashes the second form, the Heavenly One Sword. With overwhelming energy surrounding him, he slashes his sword through the air, yet the attack is easily blocked by his sister's aura alone. On the other hand, Charlotte is still doubtful and believes that our hero is hiding something. Since her wooden sword breaks from the clash, she finally takes out her aura blade. First, she forces our hero to lose his grip on his sword, and then she moves into attack. However, just in time, Crash uses the black hood as his sword pierces through his hand. Despite not being able to break through her aura, he still manages to reach his sister. After the match, Charlotte walks through the corridors, thinking about how her little brother was able to touch the stream of her aura, which is a unique power granted by the gods. It is like a current surrounding her entire body, forming a barrier that no one weaker than her can reach. So far, not a single person has been able to do it. Crash is the first one. It is true that she was holding back and only used her aura as a blade. However, our hero's last attack could have been the cause of her death if it had truly connected. Even so, she still finds it impossible to believe. When Ariad interrupts her thoughts, she becomes annoyed. She simply asks about Crash's arm, which is now fine. Although he fainted right after the battle ended, she then decides that she will meet him at the Raholan Academy itself, since she is aware that he has been planning to enroll there. In the upcoming 3 weeks, the new year will begin. However, a few days later, Crash goes to meet Darling, who has already made the elixir for him. He is impressed by how quickly Darling managed to make it. Then, on Krim's suggestions, he borrows Darling's training grounds to drink the elixir. The little alchemist agrees. Soon after, in the training grounds, our boy finally drank the elixir, yet the suspicious look on Krim's face makes our hero question what he has just drunk. Meanwhile, Darling seems completely confused that he drank it without even having any knowledge of it. Krim explains that what he just took is called the 9-time dragon pill. In order to become a dragon, one needs to undergo transformation at least 9 times. Just like muscles tear in order to grow stronger, this elixir will force both the body and aura to evolve. Behind him, the main body says that if our hero endures it 9 times, he can become much stronger. However, to his surprise, Crash finds all of this very bearable. He felt the pain a few moments ago, but now everything is completely fine. He claims to handle it easily since he has gone through far worse experiences before. As Krim and our hero talk, Darling stands there, worried and confused, wondering why his friend is talking to a crow. Crash then starts to concentrate, since it can help his body absorb as much of the elixir as possible. Seeing his body glow as he concentrates, Krim and the Crimson Garden, who sees the world through his eyes, both are impressed. After all, he is the very person who endured the pain of having his internal organs crushed and his nerves reattached, and that is what makes him dangerous. Crimson Garden has to admit that our hero is different from all the returners he has seen so far, since he is obsessed with achieving his goal. However, if he ever reaches his limits, Crimson Garden promises that he will always be there to hold him back, just as they agreed. On the other hand, Crash can feel his aura evolving from a drop into a lake. Until now, he could only improve the quality of his aura, but after taking the elixir, he has advanced directly from a mid-rank expert to a high-rank expert. Now he is finally equal to the geniuses. He even uses Ignis to burn away the impurities created within his body. His stubbornness makes sense, since if he wants to defeat people stronger than himself, including Crimson Garden, he has to be like this. As he finishes, Bianca and Darling rush toward him. She did not want to stay away while our boy was taking the elixir. He then gently pats her on the head, asking her to stay away next time. Seeing the two of them together, even Darling wishes to have a fiancé and talks about getting engaged to Charlotte, which immediately makes Crash furious. After that, Darling announces that he will be joining the Rahalan Academy as well, which surprises our hero. In his past life, Darling and Charlotte did not study at the same academy, despite being aware that they cannot advance to the next grade until they pass the entrance exam. Darling has been planning to join the academy, seeing it as the perfect opportunity to be with the two people he is interested in, our hero and his sister. However, Crash wasn't really aware that Charlotte would be joining the academy as well. With that, Darling starts acting clingy again, holding on to our protagonist's arm, which makes him furious once more. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the head butler is informed that Crash has returned to Green Pine Manor. She orders someone to inform him that his examination will take place in a week. She is excited to see just how much our hero has improved. The head butler finally shows up for the exam. She is also our hero's great-aunt, named Catherine Valheim. When asked, Crash confirms that he is informed by Ariad that today is his re-evaluation exam. The main reason his aunt thought she should verify his skills is the fact that he has defeated a high-ranking expert, Butcher Dog. Even when Crash tries to brush it off by calling it all luck, his aunt does not hold back. Along with that, she points out that if he cannot even withstand Charlotte, he cannot become the patriarch. However, our hero finds it amusing, since in the future, when the world falls into ruin, bloodline alone will no longer matter. Anyone powerful enough will have the chance to become the patriarch. It makes sense that right now, no one can predict that future. He however finds it all funny, leaving the head butler confused. Crash simply says that whoever is powerful enough, the position will find them on its own. After that, the exam begins. Catherine can sense that our boy has become a completely different person. As for the exam, since she believes that he has already reached the high-rank expert level, and because she herself is at master rank, she only asks him to make her take a single step back during the fight. Confident that he can challenge a master rank expert, Crash takes out his sword. Catherine instantly recognizes the remarkable sword art. It is very similar to the Sword Saint poster art, a top-tier ranked technique. After seeing the aura as well, she becomes convinced that the art belongs to the sword demon. Even the scar of her neck can recognize it. With that, our hero unleashes a powerful slash, gathering an enormous amount of aura. The energy rushes straight toward the target, while Catherine prepares herself, quite impressed by the attack. As the energies clash in the air, she manages to block the attack coming toward her. However, she soon notices something strange. Her sword suddenly shatters into pieces. At that moment, she declares that Crash has passed the exam. Afterward, when he asks to join the blue team, which is actually a mid-tier squad, Catherine is left somewhat confused, wondering what exactly he is trying to do. With that, she takes her leave, deciding to look forward to his request. On the other hand, completely exhausted, our boy finally lies down on the ground. Just then, a voice interrupts him, praising Charlotte for making the head butler take a few steps back. It is none other than the patriarch of the house, Valheim, the war king, Valrog Valheim. Crash becomes nervous and frightened the moment he sees him standing there, instantly sensing the overwhelming aura surrounding him. However, the patriarch remarks that our hero's hesitation is now gone, and tells him to take it easy for the rest of the day. With that, he declares that he is returning to the Forbidden Zone, leaving his son confused as to whether he came all this way just to say a few words. 3 weeks later, in Hallgram, the free city of the Red Magic Tower, the place from which the Blue Sky Knights originate, our protagonist arrives together with Bianca. As they walk through the city, they observe the strange stuff being sold. It is a place where anyone who is not a mage is looked down upon. The city is filled with magic supremacists. It is led by one of the most great sovereigns, the Flame King, making the towers extremely influential. And within this city resides the third female returner, the Red Witch, Abella. Having retained all of her memories from the past, she will soon become a great mage once again. However, our hero must remain cautious. Since he doubts if she's aware that he has returned as well, he decides to finish his business and leave as soon as possible. He enters a shop famous for its food, and there he meets Lilina, a maid serving the Aslan Igrit. He interrupts her while she is eating food that belongs to her master, but brushing it aside, She immediately leaves to deliver the meal, vowing to return as soon as possible. The thing is, Crash had already asked Krim to keep an eye on her and gather information. As they wait, they decide to order something. Soon after, they come out of the shop, having finished their meal. At that moment, Krim finally shows up, complaining that they ate without him. He then delivers some surprising news. At the mansion, the Flame King's grandson, Aslan Igrit, has committed suicide. Back then, Aslan was saved just as he was about to hang himself. Soon after, sitting on a beach, his maid Lilina remains deeply worried about him. She feeds Krim, who stays in the form of a crow, confessing how Aslan has been trying different ways to end his life and has been refusing to eat anything at all. Aslan was never like this before, and Lilina wishes that something could change to make him happy again. Just then, our hero steps forward and introduces himself. Lilina is surprised as to why the son of the strongest martial arts family is trying to have a direct conversation with her. Our hero offers his help and explains he is aware that the main reason Aslan lost his will to live is because of a girl named Dorothy, who suddenly disappeared at the Magic Academy. Lilina finds it strange that he knows about this, since only a few people are aware of the situation. Furthermore, the fact that they have been hiding the news of the missing girl is unusual. Crash tries to explain the situation, stating that the world erosion is evolving, and its creators are evolving and learning as well. Because of that, the number of forbidden zones is increasing. Even the Spirit King's forest, managed by House Igrit and the Red Magic Tower, is in a bad state. Lilina is confused and does not fully understand what he means. That is when our hero finally reveals the truth. The very forest he is talking about has created a spirit that looks exactly like a human, and that spirit is actually Dorothy. That is the reason the news was kept hidden by the Vice Lord. The main reason our hero is explaining all of this to Lilina is because he genuinely cares about her master and wants to help save him. Spirits are one of the creators of erosion, which is a major threat and a huge problem for the world. Since House Igrit and the Red Magic Tower work on the front lines, they are a major obstacle to the spirit's evolution. Following the emergence of the Forbidden Zone on the outskirts of Hallgram, our hero successfully joins the Blue Sky Knights with the help of his family, along with Sapphira, a subordinate of Crimson Garden, and a World Erosion Investigation Group Rank 4 investigator, whom Crash met at the very beginning. She has now reached Rank 3. Because of the other subordinates, he hands over the Rank 4 badge to our hero. After their investigation request gets approved, they are warned to stay alert due to the heavy spirit dust, and are finally allowed to enter. As they walk, Crimson Garden asks to head back, which confuses our hero since he was never like this before. It is then that he informs him that a long time ago, a servant from House Igrit took a spirit out of the Spirit King's forest. They lived together and traveled the world. Our hero immediately understands what he is talking about. It is the story of the first spirit master and the third spirit. When the master died, the spirit was unable to process or understand what had happened. Believing that it had been left behind all alone, it felt lonely all the time, eventually went insane, and ended up destroying an entire city in a single night. Seeing the chaos, the family of the first spirit master, House Igrit, took responsibility. Since then, they started referring to such spirits as erosion species and hunted them down. Crimson Garden always wanted the chaos spirit to return to its original form and go back to the forest, but the spirit was left with nothing except sadness and anger. The very subordinate of Crimson Garden had been handling the spirit until he died. He wanted to end it with his own hands. However, the body through which Crimson Garden is currently seeing the world is not capable enough to fight it, so our hero takes responsibility instead. Moving forward with his powers, he begins the battle. Even in his past life, he was the one who killed this chaos spirit even in his past life. With multiple attacks and continuous slashes, our hero fights the spirit. In his past life, he faced many problems because only skill-based attacks worked against it. But now, having more experience and advantages, he can kill this spirit before it reaches its peak. The horrible, mud-like spirit tries to attack Crash once again, but with a single strike, he slashes it down. In the end, he crushes the spirit's core using his black hood, since the creature possesses incredible regenerative abilities. In its final moments, the spirit misses its master, Agni, who had vowed never to leave it alone. The spirit had always been waiting for him. Before anything more can be said, Crimson Garden hugs the fading spirit and apologizes for everything. He explains how he can only see the world through his subordinates. The only reason the spirit came to him was because it was still able to feel Agni's presence in him. Crimson Garden regrets not looking after the spirit himself and leaving everything to a subordinate who did not have much time left. With that, the spirit finally disappears, while Crimson Garden continues apologizing for leaving it all alone. Soon after, Crash meets Lilina again, with Crim by his side, and asks if he can meet. When asked whether he has found a way to bring Dorothy back, our hero confirms that he has an idea, but admits that he will need the help of both her and her master. At midnight, with the help of the artifact given by Lilina, our boy visits Aslan, who lives a nocturnal life because of his lunar shadow physique. There, he makes a deal with Aslan, who is desperate to see Dorothy again. Crash asks Aslan to give his lunar shadow physique to him and then sacrifice himself in the spirit forest a few days later, while vowing to bring Dorothy back in return. Griefer to see Dorothy once again, Aslan agrees to the deal. Aslan initially mistakes our hero for a demon, but he quickly clears up the misunderstanding. Even so, Aslan still finds the deal a little twisted despite not even fearing the sacrifice. He wonders why anyone would want the lunar shadow physique, which is basically a curse. A person born with the lunar shadow physique possesses the yin energy of the moon and is forced to live in the shadows forever. They can only move freely at night, when the yin energy is at its peak. That energy even becomes embedded within the body, weakening physical strength and limbs, making it seem like nothing more than a burden. However, this fatal condition is actually a treasure for Crash, one that can help him surpass his current limits. After explaining all of this, our hero finally introduces himself. He says that he is willing to stand by Aslan because both of them have been called failures by their families. With that, the suffering kid finally accepts him and asks him to explain more about how he plans to bring Dorothy back. Aslan was born into the Igrit family, a line of fire mages. Because of his lunar shadow physique, he could never use fire magic, which is why his grandfather decided to remove him from the line of succession. Even when his mother, Agatha, tried to take stand for him, his grandfather refused to put the family at risk, blaming her for marrying someone with yin energy. Instead, his grandfather planned to adopt Abela, a talented fire mage. Aslan was never truly loved by anyone. After some time, even his own mother became harsh toward him, because she feared that if he remained so powerless, the family would eventually kill him, just as they had killed his father. Eventually, Aslan ended up burning his own lunar shadow physique along with his body, left the house, and later became the Flame Emperor. Even back when our boy checked the condition required to obtain Aslan's lunar shadow physique, it was to resolve his stubbornness. In this life, the condition remains exactly the same. Right now, Aslan's only question is how they plan to save a spirit that even the Igrits, who manage the forest, could not save. Soon after, they discuss the entire plan. Aslan prepares to hand over his curse immediately, but Crash refuses and asks him to do so only when he is truly ready. With that, he takes his leave. As they walk away, Krim wonders if he has chosen such a complicated path only because Aslan was his old friend. However, our protagonist simply does not want Aslan to die the same way he did in the past life, by burning away his own life force at a very young age. In the past life, even before the fight began, they had already lost a very important member of the Blue Sky generation. However, this time, Crash wants his friend by his side. Since he cannot trust Sigrun and her group, Aslan is the only option he has. Along with that, he can help overcome the drawbacks of fire-quenching erosion with his curse. Our hero can also fulfill the promise he made to Lilina in his past life, to take away his master's curse. He does not want Aslan to suffer in this life. Finally, the day to execute their plan arrives. Aslan tries to burn himself inside the forest, while the patriarch becomes furious at him for trying to kill himself again and again. He curses and insults his grandson, but Aslan shows no interest in his words. He no longer cares about the family's honor or reputation, since he was never loved in the first place. His grandfather took away every precious thing he had, and even the kind version of his mother eventually disappeared. In the name of the family, he was always forced to sacrifice everything. Now, he vows to destroy the family's reputation along with himself by dying. Enraged by his words, the patriarch uses his magic to kill him. Agatha immediately rushes forward to save her child, but our hero arrives just in time, blocks the attack, and throws Aslan away from danger. Galena catches him in time and hands over the note Crash prepared, along with Dorothy's crystal. In the note, our hero explains how he plans to bring Dorothy back. Since the patriarch was away to find the mission Abela, originally, their plan was to distract the acting patriarch so they could steal the crystal. However, unexpectedly, the real patriarch himself returns. At that moment, worried about his helper, Aslan finally casts aside his hesitation and decides to hand over his lunar shadow physique. With that, the curse is finally absorbed by our boy. In an instant, his energy surges dramatically, causing the patriarch to question his identity. A moment later, after recognizing him as the so-called loser of the Valheim family, the patriarch hears Crash openly declare that he is Aslan's friend. The patriarch can even feel the concentrated aura around Crash's body, and asks him to step aside, not willing to fight his family. He turns to take his leave when our boy tries to attack him, yet the strike is easily blocked by the aura surrounding the old man. Enraged by his actions, the patriarch grows furious. Meanwhile, near the lake, Aslan hears a loud blast. He gets worried about his friend, but Lilina asks him to focus on saving Dorothy instead. Doing exactly as our hero instructed, Aslan moves forward. He pierces the crystal into the core of the chaos spirit and throws it into the lake. While doing so, he remembers how, despite trying so hard, he was never appreciated by his family. However, with Dorothy, things were different. She always appreciated his magical abilities. Even when he tried to brush it aside, she only praised him more. She would hang over him with textbooks, eager to learn spells, hoping to pay him back with food from her favorite shop. Aslan always believed that a mage without magic had no value, but Dorothy always held a special place in his heart. When he asked about her obsession with learning magic, she simply replied that it was fun. At that moment he realized that he had never thought of magic that way. His only reason for learning it was that he was born into a great family of mages. He remembers how, as a child, he genuinely loved learning magic. Even when he later began to hate it, Dorothy made him love it again. But one day, while they were together, and Aslan was confessing his feelings to her, someone suddenly attacked them. Trying to save him, Dorothy sacrificed herself and died. While everyone, including his mother, believed that the spirit had been harming him, Dorothy had always supported him. It was not the first time she had helped him either. Even during their academy days, she was always there for him. When the dormitories collapsed, she was the one who saved him. Yet no one believed him, instead judging him for relying on a spirit. But none of that could change the fact that Dorothy was someone Aslan truly loved. With that, our hero's solution finally succeeds, and Dorothy comes back to life. Meanwhile, back in the forest, the patriarch is highly impressed by our hero, accepting that the Valheims are blessed by the gods to produce such talented people. Even Crash's speed alone has already reached the master rank. However, the old man is no longer willing to let him leave so easily. At the same time, our boy finally receives confirmation that the spirit has returned to life. Along with that, Aslan's curse helps him overcome the 3-second penalty. Now his body has stabilized, allowing him to fight at full strength. He plans to compress his power with the same intensity as before, expecting to unleash an entirely different level of power. As he begins testing it, the patriarch is left in awe by the fact that this kid is attempting to surpass the limits of his own body. At last, our protagonist succeeds in awakening the second form of fire-quenching erosion. As its overwhelming aura clashes against the patriarch's power, another massive explosion erupts. When the smoke finally clears, Crash realizes that the patriarch actually broke through his defense, although he still managed to wound the old man. Even though his sword shatters into pieces, the opponent still can't believe what just happened. The fact that our boy openly claims to be Aslan's friend influences his judgment. After witnessing his abilities, the patriarch becomes convinced that his future is bright and that he will become a renowned fighter one day. Therefore, having Aslan by his side would be beneficial for their family as well. While he was searching Abella, his grandson managed to find a genius as his friend. Just as he is about to step forward and speak with our hero, a massive crystal wall suddenly forms in front of them. Aslan appears with Sapphira and others. He warns everyone that a high-tier spirit has awakened, shouting for them to leave immediately. Just then, a magic circle forms right where Crash is standing. He shouts, declaring to leave the high-tier spirit to the old man. The fact leaves the patriarch completely startled as he curses them all. As our hero and the others teleport elsewhere through the magic circle, although he loses all his energy, he gets scolded by Sapphira for being so careless and leaving no chance to properly test his skills. However, Crash interrupts the argument, finding these changes rare. Walking ahead, Aslan thanks Crash for everything, only to be asked about his future plans. When Aslan confesses that, after getting rid of the curse, he is thinking about learning magic, our boy reminds him that his family is still against him. Now, he is not alone anymore. He has Dorothy by his side to protect. Against his desire to test his own strength, Crash suggests that Aslan enroll in Rahalan Academy. That way, he will be able to avoid his family for a while and become strong enough to protect Dorothy. Accepting the advice, he finally says goodbye to everyone. Meanwhile, Lilina stays behind, not wanting to interrupt them. She simply thanks Crash for protecting her master, and vows to repay the debt whenever she gets the chance. Brushing it aside, our hero wishes her luck, and takes his leave as well. Soon after, in the Blue Sky Knight's room, while Krim only scolds him for breaking his sword. Now, they are planning to obtain a new weapon that can withstand fire-quenching erosion. Krim tries to recommend someone, but our protagonist has already decided that they will head to the Place of Relics. This place belongs to a civilization where the eroders work alongside engineers to create weapons capable of rivaling world erosion itself. In the Place of Relics, the deeper one goes, the more valuable the treasures become. However, so far, no one has managed to surpass the 8th floor, which is guarded by a ghost named Rakuten. He used to be the leader of the Black Dragon Sword, but after being cursed by the place while obtaining its power, he decided to guard the 8th floor with the divine sword, Stormstar. In his past life, Stormstar was obtained by Belican, and when he passed away, the sword was eventually handed over to Charlotte. This time, however, Crash is determined to defeat Rakuten and claim the sword for himself. In the past, our hero spent an entire year in that place alongside Anax and the others, investigating after learning that Belican had obtained Stormstar. In the end, they only found a man who called himself the king of the place. Anax became furious at the man and nearly beat him to death. Back in the present, Crash is interrupted by a group of people who are also aiming to defeat Rakuten. They are the reason why our hero has been unable to recruit party members. Their leader is the Fendel, a notorious troublemaker. This is the very same man who got beaten up in the past, yet his arrogance has not changed even a little. Fendel is almost master rank himself, and that is why he starts looking down on our hero. However, after noticing this guy's impressive strength, Crash suggests that he join the Valheim Knights. He praises him for reaching high-rank expert despite being a commoner and even becoming a faction leader, offering him the position of Valheim Knight. Thinking that he can get to be a noble, Fendel accepts the offer and confidently extends the invitation. As a result, Crash starts mocking him, making the guy furious. After all, Fendel calls himself a king, yet becomes distracted by a single proposal. Although he is furious, he suppresses his anger thinking that his opponent is a Valheim. Even so, he still believes that our hero will never reach the 8th floor if he continues beefing with him. Meanwhile, Crash is completely ready to defeat him. He knows that once Fendel is beaten, all the people who have been holding back because of him will finally step forward and join his party. Eventually, the so-called king insults him for not being able to recognize the difference in their strength, but our hero remains completely confident. With that, the fight finally begins as the opponent rushes forward, fully determined to kill our boy, but his attack is easily blocked by the black iron sword. Even after getting mocked for using it, Crash still believes in himself. The opponent remains confident and rushes forward again with his strength and aura to attack, yet he fails miserably. Finally, he realizes that our hero can predict his movements beforehand. But this time, our protagonist decides to attack with his fire magic, yet his opponent manages to dodge the attack and uses his own skills to prove why he is called the king of this place. The two continue fighting as their weapons clash again and again. Watching Crash use a blunt sword, a girl standing nearby is left amazed. Although back in the fight, the main reason our boy can predict all of his opponent's moves is because he watched him fight countless times against Onyx in his past life. Suddenly, the opponent leaps high into the sky, fully prepared to kill his target. However, because of fire-quenching erosion, his attack fails miserably. Instead, he gets kicked hard and finally loses the match. The crowd is left in disbelief, realizing that Crash is actually stronger than Fendel. As the fight ends, our hero welcomes anyone willing to join his party and proceeds toward the 8th floor. A girl in the crowd, watching all of this, actually starts believing that our hero might be able to take down Rakuten. She begins to wonder if she had trained this hard at his age to strengthen herself, but just as before, she was never able to rise beyond the beginner master rank. Interrupting her thoughts, a man shows up and calls out to her. Eventually, Lakra tells him that this is their last chance to challenge Rakuten. When the man notices her hesitation, he motivates her by reminding her how different she is from Fendel and his team, who got defeated by Rakuten and then simply formed a team, spending years showing off. Unlike them, she practiced every single day just to defeat the ghost. His words motivate her, and she decides not to hold back this time. The next day, Crash waits for Lakra. People call her the light of the place, while Fendel is known as its darkness. In his past life, she used to be the idol of every challenger. However, before returning to the past, he saw her give up and slowly fade away. Even when Krim worries that Fendel might look for a chance to take revenge, our hero confirms that he is actually waiting for that moment so he can steal the opponent's skill, Lionel. The skill has a total of 3 locks. He has already unlocked the first one by making the owner jealous. Now only 2 remain, which he could not unlock yesterday. He is not worried though, since they will face each other many times in the future. As Krim talks with our hero, Lakra finally arrives and asks to join his party. When asked whether she is fine becoming an enemy of her former teammate Fendel, she agrees without hesitation, calling them cowards. Wanting to change herself, she wishes to challenge the 8th floor once again. Happy with her answer, Crash finally agrees to let her join the team. 2 days later, on the day of the raid, the team arrives in front of the tower. There, Lakra explains that the entire structure extends beneath the ground, and that it will take nearly a month to reach the 8th floor because of the many traps and obstacles inside. The party now consists of 4 members, including our hero, a guy named Derek. He is the very man who motivated Lakra back then. The second person is white mage named Fenicelli, and Lakra herself. Trusting his teammates, our boy officially declares the beginning of their journey, impressing everyone with his kindness despite being a noble. As they move forward, Krim informs him that Fendel's faction is actually competing against them to see who can clear the floors first. Determined to reach the 8th floor, Crash enters the tower with his team and arrives at the gate leading to the first basement floor. Behind it wait countless monsters known as poison claw rabbits. This time, Lakra steps forward to prove herself. As waves of monsters appear, she cuts through them one after another with incredible speed, impressing everyone. For our hero, it is also a great opportunity to observe a beginner master who specializes in direct combat. Until now, he has mostly relied on elixir, secret techniques, and the abilities he has stolen. However, reaching master rank requires building strength through his own foundation. In his past life, even after working extremely hard, he he lacked the fundamentals and never managed to reach that level. However, Lakra is someone who reached her rank through nothing but honesty, discipline, and training. If Crash can learn from the foundation built by a commoner like her, he may be able to earn his place among the Academy's geniuses, and for that, he asks Lakra to spar with him every day until they reach the 8th floor, using only swords and no aura. She agrees because she believes Crash is someone who genuinely wants to improve and aim higher. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a certain figure rises in anger. A girl with golden hair becomes furious at our protagonist for targeting everything that belongs to her. She shouts that Stormstar is supposed to be hers,